what the fuck he is seeing. And these streets will speak for themselves whether I'm alive or dead. I trust you guys. I love you guys. We'll keep this space open. This is the last stronghold for civil discourse. After this shit, it's just rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat.
Man, that's the fucking goat right there. Anyways,
Yeah.
what the fuck is up, y'all? Welcome back to the On Repeat
Repeat
Pod.
podcast.
It's your boy Medium Frank.
And Dark Ruffalo?
Y'all know why I call him Dark Ruffalo, right?
No, why?
Because fucking Black Lives fucking matter.
True.
We also have our boy Xani Devito.
Yo.
Fuego as a hot damn Cheeto. How's it going, everybody?
My fucking brother. How you doing, man?
Just another day in what they tell us is paradise.
That's fucking big facts. And last but not least, we have big King Kongfetti. What's up, big dog?
Oh, what's up, y'all? You know, just here.
I just want to say before we get into anything else, too, King Kongfetti is taking this whole thing to the next level. So we are.
He is.
We're about to
Great
become
to
a
be
real
here.
podcast right now.
It feels like a real podcast.
Oh man.
Y'all better watch out.
But yeah, man, I'm glad that we're all getting back together here. I'm glad we're doing another
Mhm.
episode of the On Repeat podcast. Before we say anything at all, definitely look in the description for links to donate to the Black Lives Matter organization and also to the National Bailout Fund, which the National Bailout Fund, especially they really focus on helping protesters that have been incorrectly or unjustly jailed and helping them get out. Helping them post bail, and it's not just limited to that either. It's also tons of other people of color, especially single mothers that find themselves jailed and unable to find help to get bail, to get reunited with their families. So definitely consider checking those links out and making a donation if you can. If you can't afford it, there's so many other ways to contribute too. So just stay diligent, fight the good fight, and
Yeah.
we're together that this we get some real change here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man, that was the clip that we just listened to at the beginning is just, I don't know, super powerful to me. So we're definitely going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Dave Chappelle in general. We're going to talk about Dave Chappelle's most recent stand-up that stand-up, more like a speech, I guess, that he posted on YouTube that I think is so culturally significant. So we'll get into all that. But before we do, I think it's super important for all of us to talk about how we're feeling and how we're navigating these times, especially because we all have very different point of views in life. Obviously, none of us here are black. Obviously, none of us here will ever understand how it is to be black in this life. But we all come from very different backgrounds and have very different interactions with black people and other people of color and other socio-economical backgrounds. And I think, it's important for us to also kind of present our point of views and help people that also come from, like, cut from our cloth understand why this time is so important. So, having said all that, how's everybody kind of like coping and handling and again navigating through these times, man? How's it going?
Well, I guess I'll just start. As for me, I don't know, like I feel like I'm becoming more in tune at least with the world, and I feel like everyone's starting to wake up. And it is a wake up call, with what we've seen. What's happening on the streets right now seems to be a tipping point of, this systematic oppression and racism that's been building this tension throughout all these years. And for me personally, it's kind of started with us mostly talking through Instagram, seeing what people are posting. And for me, it was hard for me to like talk about it, and I've noticed everyone's talking about it, because I know for me, like I don't want to say anything that's not for me to say.
Yeah.
Kind of, at least with what I've seen in a lot of social media activism, it's about like helping people who don't really have that voice be propped up right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I've gone through so many emotions just these past few weeks because there was a corona, which it was already scary.
Yeah.
And then just seeing George Floyd, what happened to him, just like it took me it's weird because when I first saw it, it just made me so angry. And then you and I went to a protest.
Yeah.
The day before that, I just remember like I had this different sense of energy, like I wanted to change things.
Yeah.
But then I also felt overwhelmed, and I like just remembering in my mind what happened to George Floyd made me break down that day and cry. And to me, that was weird because I felt a new type of empathy where like even if it's someone that someone who isn't me, like I've always been empathetic anyways,
Mhm.
but just seeing that it just you just can't help but feel sorry for George Floyd, like he didn't have to die,
Yeah.
so I mean I guess that's the gist of it. I just up and down, I feel like protests, the marches have changed a lot
Yeah.
so far, great changes, but at the same time I can't help but sometimes feel depressed and hopeless because for all the people marching in the streets, it seems like they still can't really be heard.
Yeah. For sure.
What about you guys?
Zanny, I think it's super important, for us to hear from you too, because
No, absolutely. I wanted to
you're one
give
of our
everybody else a chance. I didn't want to just jump in and be like, like I usually do. I feel like this is a little bit more of a important podcast, and I should be patient rather than
yeah,
just start spitting words.
for sure,
I
man. But you're
definitely,
like one of our you're one of the white allies that uh we all know that you're on the right side of things. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
again, it's
definitely, I
important
definitely
to
feel
hear that.
like, I definitely feel like I'm learning a lot more than what I knew already. Um, you know how I already feel about the police. Um,
Yeah.
Other than that, it's just shit's getting shit's just getting crazy.
Yeah.
I'm not only like angry, I'm afraid, wondering what the world what's gonna happen next. I'm already super paranoid. I smoke a lot of pot. So like so it's like it's crazy to just sit here sometimes and think about it because you just especially right now, they say that the apps and everything, they're what give us a lot of our anxiety just scrolling through shit and just like we got to see what the next best thing is. Well, and then what everything right now that's the next best thing is the big brawl, next big riot, next big fucking white on black, next big killing, next big cop killing a guy. It's like nothing good right now. I'm trying to find panda bears, like eating some like
Hmm.
bamboo or something to make me just like feel a little happiness at the moment. But like it's crazy out there right now, man.
Yeah,
And
man.
it's definitely be. I don't think it was ever. A lot of people say that oh yeah, it's better than it was before. It's better. No, I think it's just we didn't know as much as we do now. It's not as seen as it was as it is now
Yeah.
before, and it's just like there's just so many things going on right now. It's just to show that we live in such a horrible world, and we're not. And to think that this is also happening all across the world, not just the
Mm.
protests,
Yeah.
because the type of racism that's going on.
Mhm.
Like in Mexico, I think it was like just a couple years ago, people of color were allowed to vote, like black people and everything. So it's just like
Yeah.
for the first time ever, and it's almost 2020 when they did that. So
Yeah.
it's everything. The whole world needs to change. It's not just us.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with somebody at a party the other day about it, about how it's like at one time it was just like, oh yeah, we can all laugh at like racist jokes and everything, but it's like now it's like you can't even think of it without cringing anymore.
Mm.
Yeah.
You even try to think of something that it could have been funny. It's a stereotype joke,
Mhm.
fucking like what Kevin says. You guys either drive like Fast and the Furious or can't drive at all.
Yeah.
But like that feels weird to say now. It's just like nothing that doesn't feel okay anymore.
Mhm.
Things we used to laugh at is just not funny anymore. It can't be.
And that to me that's like incremental progress. You know what I mean? Like even though it's not a huge big thing, I do think that like having everybody be a little bit more cognizant of it is
Mhm.
a tiny, tiny, tiny step towards where we need to be. Um, yeah. So and a lot of things you said too definitely resonated with me. I think even me again, like you guys kind of know my background and all that. Even me, even though like in many ways I find many ways to not only empathize but really sympathize with a lot of the racism and a lot of the jingoistic bullshit that black people have to deal with just because of my upbringing. I also, again, like we'll never know that full experience, and it took all of this for me to realize how easy it is for me to disconnect from it, right? Like like you were saying, Zaddy, like when you're seeing all this negative stuff in your feeds and news, we have we have the privilege to be like, I need to look for panda bears. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's a lot of people out there that can't turn that off. You know what I mean? And
Oh,
even me, who again, like you guys know, I'm always the first person to be like, white people. You know what I mean? All that. I still like you said, I'm learning through this too that as much as I feel like I share the burden with my black brothers and sisters, I don't. I'm not feeling it like they feel it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I have the opportunity. I have the privilege. I'm gonna say that. You know what I mean? I have the privilege to turn it off and go away from it if I want to. You know what I mean? And that's been a pretty eye-opening experience for me and really humbling for me as well.
Yeah.
Personally, to kind of go through that. But we'll get into my thoughts more in a second here. Would love to hear from you, King Kongfetti. Like, how are you getting through everything?
Oh man, with everything that's going on, like I sort of just have to like reflect on like how I was raised. I was raised up in Canada, and born out there. Like I did not see any colors, and like honestly, the only time I really started seeing colors was when I moved out here, to America, and it's crazy, man. It's insane, of like how much like just racism is just crazy, and just this whole year has just been crazy, like COVID and everything, and just not to like but yeah, just to like snap upon like what you guys were just saying. Like I agree, everything's just insane. I feel the same way. Like I definitely felt a lot of sadness earlier because I did watch Dave Chappelle's 846, and I it was really heavy for me, and like right now I'm like trying to like hold in like a lot of emotion because like it's just that shit's fucking heavy. Like just I don't feel how they feel, but like just the fact that like I feel just a little bit of it, like I can't like really say I feel how they feel because I'm not in their shoes.
Yeah,
I won't ever feel the way they feel, but like it's so heavy for me.
yeah, for sure. And dude, thanks for sharing that for sure.
Yeah.
Like, same with me. Like, I think kind of echoing everybody here. Like, it's been really heavy for me to kind of see everything. I think there's so many times where like I'll watch something that I like. As much as I wish I could just be like, dude, don't watch this right now. It's making me feel uncomfortable. I'm like, no, I have to. You know what I mean? And that way we could at least somewhat empathize with what people are going
Mm.
through all the time. Like this one thing that I saw that really fucked me up was it wasn't even anything violent. It was just like I saw a mural of George Floyd holding his daughter, and then like the words written on it was like, "Daddy, you changed the world." Like that shit
Mm.
was
well,
so.
that wasn't George Floyd. That was the dude that they call each other twin.
No, no, no. Yeah. So Twin is Steven Jackson.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
picture. I seen the picture of Steven Jackson holding his daughter up, or holding George Floyd's daughter up when she said that.
Yeah, but there's like a mural that they were
Oh,
so, like the picture that they made a mural of is Steven
oh,
Jackson holding George Floyd's daughter up, but in the
got
mural that was painted, they put actual George Floyd
Yeah.
on there, um,
it.
and like even that was like so powerful for me, and that I think that was the point where I was just like, dude, like I need to do everything I possibly can to be an ally in this. And again,
Mm.
like all like Zanny touched on earlier too, like the amount of learning I'm doing, I think is really important too because I've under I'm starting to understand our role as allies in this fight, even if we are people of color. We're not
Mm.
black. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of things to address with our side of the fence too, but we're gonna get there. You know what I mean? We need to
Yeah.
make sure that we're sticky. We're showing up for our black brothers and sisters. And I see so many people, not just Filipinos, right? A lot of white people that I know that their heart's in the right place, and a lot of Filipino people, brown people, everything, their heart's in the right place, but it's a little misguided with how much they're trying to like lead this movement. And I think that's also why we're all kind of hesitant to do an episode like this because we don't want to look like we're taking over or making this about ourselves.
Yeah.
Definitely not that. I really hope that this podcast or whatever message we're able to portray in this podcast is aimed towards people who are more geared to listen to people that look like us, so that we can convince them to support the Black Lives Matter movement and all of that. So just kind of learning my place in this,
Yeah, maybe
what
help some
seems like,
people.
yeah, it seems like a revolution's happening, and learning my place in it has been really transformative. Um, yeah, man. So it's been heavy, but again, like it's I've been able to understand that, like, I have the privilege to, like, not feel this way or do something about this, and that has galvanized me more than ever, and is really helping me kind of like get through the tough time. And I, when the protests that we went to, and this might be more of like a tongue-in-cheek joke type of situation, but when we were actually like marching with everybody, and the lead car came through, and on air horns there, and on what do you call those, like the megaphones, they were
Mhm.
saying like, if they tear gas us, do not panic. And I remember I looked over to Adam and Sean, and I was like, yo, I'm ready to fucking die right now. You know what I mean? Like, I was so like galvanized to see young black people like finally like say I fucking had it. You know what I mean? And I was just like, bro, if we show up for them, they're for sure gonna show up for us.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And I think the most value we could bring to this movement is start to kind of look at our own people and point out the bullshit, right?
Mm-hmm.
I always say, like, you guys know me, I like a lot of our, like, Julianne and everybody will always say that they have a voice in the back of their head now when they do something that's a little too white, and it's me going, fucking white people. You know what I mean? And it's always been like a joke, but not. But I've come to realize that it's always been like, I've always directed that towards the idea of white people, and that it's always like, oh, it doesn't apply to anybody I know. You know what I mean? It's like the idea of oppression and prejudice and racism, right? It doesn't apply to actual white people I know. It doesn't apply to actual Filipino people I know. It doesn't, you know what I mean? But I've come to realize that systemic racism makes it so that, yeah, we need to address it towards the white people we know, the Filipino people we know. Because even if we aren't being outwardly maliciously racist, the way we think and the way we do certain things, it's ingrained into us that there's always going to be a racial bias or prejudice, even if we're not outwardly doing it. So I think it's time for us to not be have those uncomfortable confrontations with ourselves, with our family members, with our best friends, in order to make shit better moving forward. Like, we all have to look at this with zero ego and with zero malintent, and be like, yo, dude, I didn't even realize how racist I'm being, you know what I mean, towards black people. And if we could finally hold that mirror up to ourselves, I think that's when we could really start to see some wholesale change. And, especially for us, Kyle, like, we definitely have work to do, even within our own immediate families, to rid some systemic
Mm.
racism from Filipinos. Something as simple as like our aunties being like, "Ang puti mo," which means, "Oh, you look so light skinned right now," and that equals beauty. Like, even though they're not outwardly being racist, that's generational systemic racism that was implanted into our society. You know what I mean? And we need to call that shit out and understand, like, I understand that you are not a bad person, but this is a disease that has been implanted into our lineage that we need to now say no more. You know what I mean? And there's so many people that get offended with, I can't be proud of my lineage. None of us should, bruh. Like, the way we should look at it is, I know that I and my immediate family and the people around me do not subscribe to that ideology. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do everything I can to make sure this does not continue in my bloodline moving forward. And if you say that, that's where we could start to actually be proud of our own lineages and our heritage, because none of us could be proud of this shit right now. Like, we all have blood on our hands, and even if we're not outwardly being racist, there's small, not even small, but there's just like deep seated prejudice and bias and hate in all of our ways of thinking that we need to just start to eradicate. You know what I mean? And thinking about all of that has been so overwhelming for me recently, but ultimately has been so galvanizing and is getting me through it, you know, and it gives me hope. And like Xani said, seeing it on a wide scale like this, you know, I'm from LA. I'm from inner city LA. My pops was around during the Rodney King riots, and he even said that like as much as that was crazy, he it was contained to LA. This is happening everywhere right now. We're
Hmm.
seeing Black Lives Matter protests in Switzerland, my G. Like that is so fucking like incredible to see. And while who fucking knows if anything will come out of it, it gives me hope. You know what I mean? Yeah. Sorry, that was long.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Um, I mean, as far as like the way I'm coming from it too, though, I feel like even though like I've spoken with a couple people who's like showed up to my work. And I was talking to this one black guy who was telling me this is San Ramon, and even in San Ramon he was stopped by cops and like harassed. He was profiled because they say that he matched the description, even though like he's there just waiting for the bus early in the morning, is wearing a suit and tie and stuff like that. So like I think that kind of interaction would definitely can't relate to
Yeah.
on that level, the same as like an African American does. Their relationship with the cops is definitely different from ours.
Yeah.
Um, but I would say, but at the same time, I feel like like the four of us here, we are always willing to learn and to be better allies. Because like at the end of the day, even if we have like deep rooted flaws, I think we're always trying to like better ourselves. And I think that for a lot of people, they're trying to do that right now. They're awakening.
Yeah, I hope so. And you know, I think at the end of the day, it really needs to be led by the younger generation. You
I
know,
agree. I
um,
agree.
that's where we could see the most happen, and that's what's been the most comforting piece of this is that
Mm,
a lot of like the protests we went to in the city, bro. That's organized by brown and black high school students.
yeah.
In Nashville, there was like 180,000 people that marched in Nashville, organized by six black and brown um,
Mm,
teenagers. You know what I mean? And we're seeing that across across the globe. You know, and that's really where the hope is because
yeah.
unfortunately, 65-year-old cat that been like this their whole life, they might honestly be a lost cause at this point. It's really about moving forward, you know, and that's been, and I think a lot like I always say this to my little sister too, like the next generation is so much more open-minded and so much more willing to learn and accept people that that gives me hope that that change can happen. And I think our generation, specifically ours,
Yeah.
who's like in this weird transitional phase of being the youth and being the old heads, we're more so open to learning and being wrong as well. Like the
I
ego in
think
our generation is starting to kind of die. You know what I mean? So I'm saying?
I think that has a lot to do with where we live as well. I
For
think we
sure.
see a lot more of it because A, we're in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
B,
Mm,
we're in the most blue state in the whole country. We're in California, so we see a lot of it. I feel just from having gone to Texas, having gone to the Midwest, having gone to Iowa and Nebraska, I've definitely noticed it there. It's definitely much more abundant. It's not as hidden as it is here. It's very much more open,
Yeah.
and it's just I don't know. I feel like that's another thing we also have privileges just to be around like-minded people who are willing to learn.
mm,
We're
Hmm.
willing. There's like people want to. This is every so many years we have a great awakening in history. We learned about multiple of them, and this is just another one because this one's happening all around the world, just like the other ones. This is literally a new great awakening for our generation.
Yeah. The only thing I could hope is that it happens on a more accelerated pace since we do have like the internet and information travels
mm,
faster. Hopefully it happens at a more accelerated pace so we could see it in our lifetime.
yeah.
You know, but that's a really good point. Like the the Midwest, the South, some of the biggest echo chambers that could ever exist, right? Like
Right.
everyone, like you said, they're it's not so hidden out there.
And I
Every
went to Austin, and Austin's supposed to be a lot like California, and in ways it is, but you go outside the city. You're not walking down 6th Street at 6 o'clock where everybody's having fun drinking. Yeah, everybody's cool down at the bars. There's cops everywhere, so they kind of have to be. But like, I was walking around. I passed a gas station, and it was like everybody had their cars all donked. There might have been like 30 cars. They took over the gas station, and it was a bunch of fun. And then you leave the city, gets a little bit more rural, and then
Yeah.
it's not like
Motherfuckers
that.
got shotguns for you.
Got Confederate flags in the front window and shit, and like shit like that.
mhm.
It gets different.
So yeah, I mean, today the reason why we're here is we're gonna talk about Dave Chappelle's 846,
For sure.
and I guess we want kind of want to start because the reason why he came out and spoke, right? Did did he plan this beforehand, or is this a response to Don Lemon calling him out for not saying anything?
That I'm not sure because it sounded like he was gonna throw one regardless, and
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and I remembered like even Joe Rogan was talking about in his podcast because Dave and Joe tour together that
Uh-huh.
Dave had stuff lined up for around this time. I'm not exactly sure when they filmed that, but that I'm not sure. But I do know that Don Lemon for show called out Dave Chappelle in
Mhm.
terms of like speaking up. And I'm sure that's why like kind of the material he had was geared towards it.
Yeah.
Again, and I'm sure we just saw like a brief, like a super cut of what he actually performed because you saw him up there with a notebook, and Dave Chappelle's
Yeah.
known to like go to open mics and go to the Comedy Store in LA and test out material just like that, where he'll have a notebook full of shit. He'll just
Mhm.
fucking go for a few hours, what works, whatever doesn't work. Like he's so comfortable up there that he doesn't give a fuck if he bores you. You know what I mean? Like I've
Yeah.
heard those stories, so I'm sure we only saw roughly 27 minutes of a 2 or 3 hour fucking spitball session. You know what I mean?
I'm sure Netflix is saving that for when it comes out on Netflix.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. Do you have any info on that, Xani? Vinny? Anybody?
I do not. It kind of sounded like you were saying. I think he had the show already planned. To me,
Yeah.
when he said that, he's like, we didn't know this was gonna work. We already had it planned. So the only way we knew it was gonna work is if we did it. So
Yeah,
we did it.
I mean,
Yeah,
how do
I
you
don't
guys feel
think-
about? Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay. I just don't think he did it specifically because of Don Lemon. I think he just started off with the Don Lemon joke because it definitely pissed him off the most.
Yeah, yeah.
I was just gonna ask, how do you guys feel about Don Lemon to begin with?
Don, can I get? Let me confirm if I got this person right. Don Lemon's the guy, the black dude that works at CNN.
Yeah, man, yeah.
Right? He's gay, right?
Yeah.
Is he? I didn't know.
I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
he is. What I feel about him, I mean, I don't know enough about what he does. I know he works for CNN, which is already kind of like a red flag.
Mm.
But you know, I mean, yeah, all I know is he's there, and so again, yeah, I don't really like know his work too much. Anybody.
Yeah. All I know is, when I listen to, is the mic's still on. They're kind of clowning on him. Just
Oh, really?
really believe him. Yeah. I guess like not until now. Not until now do they think he kind of changed his like whole approach. You know.
Mhm.
Yeah. I guess they had more of a issue with him back then.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Is he
that's
is he like does he like slant towards the right?
No,
I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't
like
think
too
so.
Very-
left.
he's super left.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
He's very left. My only problem with him is not necessarily how far left he goes. It's how dramatic he is about everything.
Yeah.
My parents always taught me that your words, how you say it, and what you say mean a lot. So it's just like like for example, if I scrub my knee on the ground and I get a scrape, if I walk in and say I'm fucking about to lose my leg, my dad's gonna take me to the hospital and I just have a scrape on my knee. You know, like there's gonna be overreaction to what I said, which wasn't true. Like
Yeah.
there's truth behind it. I'm hurting, but I just didn't like how dramatic he is about a lot of things.
I think that's like consistent for every single show in CNN, though. I think
Yeah.
you know, even like people that I kind of like Anderson Cooper. I also think that like, you know, that that's the problem with getting news from news outlets like that. And I'm not trying to be like a conspiracy theorist or anything like that because I'm very secure in my
Welcome.
liberal beliefs without being like a conspiracy theorist guy with a tinfoil hat on. But you know, there's so many ways to like get news without it being presented to you by like a celebrity newscaster. I think that is
Yeah.
celebrity newscasters are like, to me, there's it's kind of problematic because it becomes more about their delivery than the actual news.
Yeah.
So I get it. Yeah.
I feel like with CNN, it's not like the news is bad. It's more, and they're not as bad as Fox,
Yeah,
but
definitely not. Yeah.
it is that thing where like you could tell it is a very biased like opinion, where like I don't know, it's harder to judge for yourself if you subscribe to any of these channels.
Yeah, it'll have to be something like a person that a thorough person. If you are subscribing to CNN, you'll subscribe to all the other news channels too, to
Yeah,
make sure you could formulate your own opinion. Yeah, at least that's the way I go about it. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like Don Lemon called out Dave Chappelle asking where is he right now, because here's the thing with so far with what's happened, just through social media, we had that Blackout Tuesday, and even that had problems that arose from that uh event as well, that movement.
Yeah.
um I guess for me, and now that we have heard from Dave Chappelle, I guess for me it is that one thing where like I remember putting on my Instagram story, we were saying I feel like the movement does need to have like a central idea or leader or something like, or not central idea, like everyone's kind of on the same page, when it comes to like the ideas. Um, I just think that like at least for allies like us, sometimes I think we need that maybe clarity, someone we could trust to follow, or like someone we could trust their words.
A strong galvanizing leader.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, yeah, and for me, I agree with you as far as the youth, and that's kind of like Dave Chappelle's sentiment too. Because for us, I think the best thing we could do will be to be like the big brothers to the movement, like helping nurture the people who will be leaders of the movement.
yeah,
Because the way I see it, it's like I think great things will happen from what's happening right now, but I think there is like that balancing thing where we're trying to go back to how it was. I don't think it's gonna get there anymore. We're gonna have to like I think that this will be a long kind of like a long goal, long term goal. I think that even though things are happening now, like the plan to get rid of racism or at least to combat it is something that will take years.
yeah, for sure. I do agree with your point of like organization. I think like I don't believe we need like a clear cut centralized leader or
Yeah,
and I think you're right that we all are pretty aligned in kind of like the main ideology of what we're trying to put across. I do think that we do need some organization, because I'm seeing, especially like specifically on the Blackout Tuesday piece, I think you were seeing misinformation on both sides, right?
yeah,
The centralized idea was, hey, let's have entertainers and allies not post anything today so we could have the people on the forefront of this issue have the entire news feed, right?
yeah,
There was like small hiccups of like, don't use this hashtag because you're going to block out important information. Like that all should have like been organized on the front end, right? But then I also see people within the movement that I think was starting to kind of like hurt the movement per se because of how critical they were of what was happening.
yeah,
We all have to kind of recognize that there's differing levels of involvement whenever it comes to a movement like this, and not everyone is going to be as galvanized as you are, and it sucks, and I want everyone to be as, you know 100% into it, right? But we also have to recognize there's some people that are just not going to be that, and I would rather them get the fuck off of social media for that day, so the folks that are willing to have those tough conversations have the space for it. So
hmm
instead of some people being super critical about the folks that were just like, posting the black tile and getting the fuck off social media, you should be like, okay, you know what, I'm just going to double down on what I'm doing.
yeah,
Because again, at the end of the day, like, it all is going towards the right cause, and hopefully that is a mechanism to get those folks that maybe aren't so um,
yeah,
involved, to get them more involved and get them more, mobilized to do something about this. And but I think all of it at the end of the day falls on organization. And like you said, the youth is going to be, like we were talking about, the youth is going to be at the forefront of this. I think our role as the older generation is, like you said, to be the big brothers of it and help them organize and be like, hey, like you guys are going to be the ones that are going to make this change.
Yeah.
Here's some like admin, like structural things that we could provide from like our knowledge of business and how the world works that we've learned in our 30ish 40
Yeah.
30 40 years on this world. Let's help you get your voice out even further, and I think if we could get a little bit more organization on our side, because the old white people got organization, bro.
They
Like,
do. They
and
do.
that's,
Organization, administration,
yeah. And they
their
and
banking. Like.
right, and they're playing with house money, a lot of them, bro. Like
Mhm.
that, the big thing, and Childish Gambino talked about this all the time too. The advantage that, again, like I don't want it to sound like I'm saying the idea of white people. I'm gonna say the advantage that white people, actual people, have, is that they're playing with house money. They're allowed to fail. A lot of
Mhm.
tons of every single, I can't say every, but 90% of black people and a lot of colored people are not allowed to fail, because if we fail, that's life or death. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? And the fact that white people have the ability to be like, let me go out on a limb and organize something. If this doesn't work, I'm just going to go away for a while. People will forget about it. I'll live my life. Whereas there's going to be, on the other side of it, there's going to be young black people who are going to be like, I'm going to go super hard on this protest and I'm going to go super hard organizing something. If they fail, they're going to jail most likely. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Mhm.
these are such drastic, drastically different repercussions that what we could do as the older generation is provide some sort of organization for those folks so that they potentially could fail and continue to live their lives. And I think that's what's so great about the National Bailout Fund and things like that, where these young black kids are going to go out on a limb and risk their lives and risk their futures for this movement. We could provide some sort of structure that makes it so, like, if it doesn't work out for you individually, you'll be fine. You know what I mean? And that's what the fucking people, the white dudes that were protesting the COVID situation with AKs, they were just fine, my G, after that. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? People are getting shot in the face with rubber bullets for protesting. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so there's organizational things that we could provide as the older generation to hopefully help further the movement.
Yeah. I guess we'll talk about, I guess there's this is a very very nuanced topic,
Hmm.
I definitely want to hear more about what you guys thought, especially now, because at least for me, how I feel is I have feelings, ideas, and thoughts about it. But at the same time, I feel like there's so much going on right now. Because even this is Black Lives Matter movement, and we fully support it. But there's also so many things converging into one. Like especially who's affected by COVID and losing their jobs more are usually right now in America are usually people of color.
Color. Yep.
So I feel like this movement um, is about race. It's about the system itself,
Mhm.
about capitalism. It's about like the way our economy works. But as far as I guess we'll go back into 846 by Dave Chappelle because he is someone who is very passionate when he talks. He is a good speaker, good orator, and he is very eloquent with expressing what he's thinking, how he's feeling. And a lot of times I agree with a lot of the things he's saying. um Going into the special, what did you guys think about it?
Uh, when I first saw it on YouTube, I thought it was like I thought, how like Netflix always posts like old clips of stand up.
Yeah.
I thought it was an old thing, so I actually didn't watch it until a day after it came out, um, and not really connecting the dots of the title. I thought it was gonna be like a normal comedy stand up.
Yeah.
So at first I was just like, okay, interesting. But the thing about Dave Chappelle is he's just so good at communicating his thoughts and
Yeah.
and finding ways for it to be consumable by everybody. You know what I mean? Like I feel like what this stand up, I don't even want to call it a stand up per se, but it felt like when you get drunk with your family and then
Mm.
after that you find somehow where you and your dad goes into the backyard and smokes a J or something, and he like breaks something so heavy down to you, but adds like jokes and humor in between all
Mm-hmm.
of it to keep you engaged. And then after you get out of that talk, you just feel so good. You're like, damn, I just had a deep ass talk with my dad or with my
Yeah.
uncle or the teacher that you respect. You know what I mean? Something like that.
Right.
That's how it felt. You know what I mean? And so as much as I did laugh at some things, I cried more than I laughed. And we could get into it once we get into the actual like nuts and bolts. But yeah, that's just what I thought initially.
Mm.
Um, what,
About
what
you,
about
Xani?
I went into it knowing what it was going to be about. I didn't know what that it had come out until someone had told me,
Mm-hmm.
which that someone is Medium Frank. And then I hadn't noticed. I also had seen I, when I first pulled it up to watch it. I hadn't realized I actually had watched all of it already by
yeah.
seeing different jokes online, just random at random parts. So
Uh-huh.
like I watched all. I didn't even. It was so short. I thought he could have easily. I know he could have easily gone on for another half an hour, but I felt like he couldn't at the same time. Like
Yeah.
not mentally, but like emotionally, it was obviously taking a toll on him. It was already taking a toll on him from the very beginning,
Yeah.
from the when he explained why the title of the stand up is what it is. That was it's very it catches your attention. Like Kevin said, there's random little jokes in there. But even then, I was just like, I didn't even really laugh at a lot of it. I didn't feel, I didn't feel like it was a stand up to laugh at.
Yeah.
Felt like it
Yeah.
was just another important speech. It's definitely something that Dave Chappelle has always said stuff in his stand up that in regards to current events, things that's going on, racism, whatever. He always mentions something, but this one was so focused on that I felt like he didn't feel like it was appropriate to tell jokes. He even said that at one point. For one joke, for one topic, he got really serious. He's like, I don't feel appropriate to tell a joke right now, but I will. And then he did tell a joke, and that was like the joke, and that he told was just that he would tell a joke. So it was like it was very. I went into it knowing that it was going to be serious. I didn't know how emotional Dave would get, but I definitely understood um, why he would get emotional. Definitely made sense to me what he would want to say and things like that.
I see. About you, Kongfetti?
I just watched it like maybe like an hour ago. Like
Mm.
I was, dude. Like I went out of my room and I was like, "Hey, Dark Ruffalo, that shit was fucking heavy, bro." And like I was at that point I was already trying to hold in my tears because I was like, "Fuck, man." I definitely learned a lot during that, and there's a lot of shit that I didn't know, and like I'm constantly trying to like stay like up to date. Like I gotta like knowledge myself on this, and like man, it's just yeah, like I'm getting a little emotional just talking about it right now. Fuck, it the content, everything, like how emotional he was, like I just felt it. I felt it, and like how he was saying, like how he was saying that how like he's gonna just be in the passenger seat or the back seat, just riding out, watching the younger generations take over, and I feel that, watching like everybody like grouping up, organizing, doing what they're doing, like man, like the whole thing, it felt like he was spitting knowledge, like trying to um, tell people about what the fuck is happening and how long it's been happening for. Yeah, that just yeah, it was heavy. It was really heavy for me for sure.
What did you guys like? What's your main takeaway from what he's saying? Is there things that you agree or disagree with him about?
I feel like I agreed with almost everything he said. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Again, like I think his point of view, it seemed like he was really centered on like, why are you so concerned about what a celebrity thinks, right? When I think what he's really touching on is, why do you care so much about what us old people think? You know what I mean? Where he as much as he's saying like, who cares what your comedian thinks right now? And I love how he tied in the "where's Jaw" joke
Where's
from.
Jaw?
I love, dude. That's just like genius type shit right there, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think he's really talking about the older generation, and it's like we shouldn't because we all agree, right? Especially like if something when remember when Brexit happened, and then
Mm.
the whole thing was like the reason why Brexit happened was because all old people in Britain who's not even going to be around to see the real effects of what's happening are the ones that made that happen.
Mm.
I also think that's kind of what Dave's touching on. And that's why he keeps saying like the youth, the streets are going to talk for themselves always. Because at this point, you really shouldn't look to the older people to get their opinions on it. Now, I love that Dave Chappelle, even though he keeps saying like who cares what a comedian thinks, despite saying that, he still gave one of the most culturally significant speeches of all time, in
Yeah.
my opinion. Right. So um I feel like everything the gist of everything he said, I fully understood and gravitated towards. And I think it was also one of those things that helps me recognize what my role is in this, as much as we are young, right? We're still part of a younger generation.
Mm.
We also kind of missed our chance to be the ones at the forefront of this when everything happened with Trayvon, when things were happening in the late 2000s, even when we were in high school. We missed that chance. We were the last generation to be like, but we'll deal with it. You know what I mean? This next generation, like our little sisters, our little, you know what I mean? Like they're the ones that are gonna make the changes now, and we now have to accept our role in terms of where we're at. And also, since we have even a small platform that we have, even though Dave Chappelle again kept saying that like who cares what your favorite comedian thinks, he still used his platform to play his role and continue to define what his role is in hopes that people who look like and are of the same age and are in the peer group as him uses their platform as responsibly as he did, because it's easy for somebody like Dave Chappelle to try to become the face of this revolution, and that's not going to help anything, right? um,
Yeah.
so I think he did it in the most responsible and powerful way possible. And I think we should all kind of follow suit, And I think that's what we're trying to do here, where we are using the small platform that we have, but we're doing it responsibly, and understanding our role. So again, like everything that he said in it, for the most part, I agree and subscribe to. I don't have the
Mm.
entire script in front of me, so I'm sure there's some things that I don't necessarily fully agree with. But
Mm.
yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
I lightweight agree with what you're saying. I just don't think that's the whole gist of what he said, what the meaning of what he said was. Yes, I agree that he's meaning the younger generation needs to speak. The older generation needs to stop talking so much and let the young ones kind of take over, because he like you said, he is uh, um comfortable with them in the driver's seat. What I also think is, and it's something I've personally thought for a long time, is that rich people need to shut up as well. They are not the people who are dealing with this.
It's true.
Even richer people of color, while they may have dealt with it in the past, I feel like they also need to let the people who are dealing with it now to take the lead. And if they want to support, by all means, support, but don't be the forefront. Be be the supporter. Be the parent that these people need in their life for this moment. Be that parent figure. Like, you could talk to them and be like, try to guide them, but let them make the decision. And
Mm.
I think that's what he meant by the street, when he meant the streets, and then what you said by when he said the young ones. So it's like I think it's a little mix of both. That
Yeah.
I
I I think that's actually a really good point, because like there's still like classes come into play, and you're exactly right. I think I also want to be careful with me saying that, like, taking finding our role in the revolution. I don't want it to sound like I'm also passing the responsibility and the onus off to other people. I don't think that's definitely not what I'm trying to say. I just think that there's ways for us to be super super involved and super super active without making it about us. You know what I mean?
No, yeah. I also think that, like, as far as people always looking to celebrities for answers and stuff like that, I feel like we've gone through many years and generations of us doing that, especially the streets doing that
Yeah.
from celebrities who came from the streets, you know?
Yeah.
Because I think for the longest time, people have known the government aren't going to do anything about it.
Yeah.
People don't really get organized and protest, kind of like what we're seeing now, unless something sparks that inspiration to go out there, you know? So for the longest time, we've always looked for these celebrities and think about, like, oh, are you going to return something back to the community?
Hmm.
And the thing with celebrities is they end up being, out of touch with
Yeah.
where they came from.
Yep.
And even if they give money, like it's not enough because people like LeBron, Kobe, seems like they were doing it right because they're like giving back to the community. They're looking at the problems and they're like stepping in with their money so
Hmm.
that they could put like a new school and stuff like that.
Right. They're not just putting money in someone else's hand. They're making that effort and
Yeah, exactly.
making and using their money the way they think it should be used.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is what I agree. I think that's how celebrities and people who have money should spend their money. It
Yep.
needs
Mm,
to go back it needs to go back towards the community.
yep.
People like I've always thought like if the rich are going to have all this money, then they need to be able to help. They need to be able to, I don't know, spend. They need to be made to spend a certain amount. And I know that you get a tax write off or whatever,
Mm,
but that shouldn't be. I don't know. I'm asking for people to be good, and that's you can't ask people to be good. That's you can only ask people to learn to do better, and
Yeah.
even that's hard.
yeah.
And another thing too, I'm glad that you guys touched on like Kobe and LeBron, because I think doubling down too, that not only do they put like money in the right places, I think some of our celebrities are doing the right thing in terms of giving their platform to people who are at the forefront uh, of protests, change,
Yeah.
things like that. Like even something small, like Haley Williams last week, she gave her IG account to Teens for Equality, the same group of teens that organized the Nashville protest that had over 180,000 people walking and protesting in the streets of Nashville, which is in the deep South, my G. Like Tennessee is very much so in the heart of the deep South Bible Belt
Mm,
type of situation. So the fact that that type of protest and that type of numbers were brought out there by some teens was really incredible to the point where like Barack Obama and Bernie Sanders, they posted about it and everything, right? So Haley Williams being from Nashville, what she did was instead of her being like, look, I'm Haley Williams and I endorse this movement, Haley Williams gave her account information to the teens and they posted whatever they wanted for a whole day. And I think that's just like the best way that we could look toward, because like we shouldn't look to our celebrities for answers, but we should see our celebrities using their resources and platforms to support the grassroots
mm,
organization that's making these changes. So LeBron putting the money into specific places that he's been putting it into. Him going against that fucking bitch that says shut up and dribble. You know what I mean?
Lauren
Him,
Ingram.
yeah, that fucking bitch. I don't even want to say that bitch's name. You know what I'm saying? Like these are the ways that we should look to our celebrities for in during times like this, and we shouldn't be looking for, and I hate to say it, we shouldn't be looking for a Kanye West to go on TV to say George Bush doesn't care about black people. As much as that,
Yeah.
as a 13-year-old kid, when I saw that, I was galvanized. That's also not the role to be played here, because you could easily just write off a celebrity for caping and trying to gain support through, um, as opposed to like using their platform responsibly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess speaking of like using your platform responsibly with how social media is right now, people are raising awareness and stuff like that through their platforms. And does a lot of it I'm learning through a lot of people, and I'm seeing how connected people are. But has anyone here have to unfollow anyone yet? And how do you feel about social media activism right now? Critiques of it or anything?
Well, I know I definitely had to like just cause, and there are people I don't even realize that I still followed. Like there are years and years of like their views totally and like it just going so far one direction that you just have to event it. It doesn't even make sense what you're saying anymore.
Mm,
It,
yeah.
I can't listen to you. Like even if you are against what I say, I'm not against hearing the opposite view. Maybe you do say something I want to hear, but like at one point you're not even willing to admit that the other side has a point either. So it's just I don't want to listen to somebody who doesn't want to listen to other people. I want to hear conversation. I want to hear someone who's willing to listen and have those conversations taking place, you know?
Yeah.
I think I'm split down the middle with this, right? Because I think that creating echo chambers for yourself is, for the most part, actually regressive. It doesn't
Yeah.
help anything. Um, but I also have come to terms with the fact that there's some things that shouldn't be negotiable. You know what I mean? Like, if it's somebody I care about, right? Like if it's somebody close to me, if it's somebody that I know that is that I need to help them understand, I'll keep them on social media,
Yeah.
and I'll go back and forth with them every single day if I have to, right? But there's some people who you don't even know. They probably follow me or added me on Facebook because of the music that we make, or they see something that I post somewhere else. Like there's so many ways to get in touch with people on social media. If it's somebody that is not even close to uh, being somebody I care about, and they're unwilling to have a conversation, and it's all just like it's you know what I mean? It's all them just trying to shove their jingoistic opinions into your threads.
Hmm.
At some point, when is it? It's not even an echo chamber I'm creating. It's like this shouldn't even be like, if it's politics, economics, something subjective like art. I think it's incorrect for me to like shut you out and not hear your opinion. But if
Yeah.
your opinion is that George Floyd, it's okay that he died because he was a criminal,
Right.
that doesn't even have a place in my conversations. And that's where I put a foot down. Now, if it was like a cousin or a brother or a good friend that says something like that, I believe it's my duty to help them understand um, where they could potentially be thinking incorrectly, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's the most impact we could have. But if it's somebody that's just like clearly there to be a troll, clearly, I mean, it's just like, dog, like there's no room for that in this conversation. So I have been blocking and deleting people. But again, I'm like very mixed on it. I have to pick and choose who I do. But at some point, we're gonna have to look at it and be like, yo, this shouldn't even be a conversation. You know what I mean? Like, this should be like, sure, it's on the surface of it, it looks like I'm creating an echo chamber for myself, but really, it's like an echo chamber is if it's like, oh, I love Nine Inch Nails, and I'm like, no, you don't like Nine Inch Nails, I'm deleting you. You know what I mean? Like that's an echo chamber. Somebody saying like,
Yeah.
oh, black people could die because they're criminals is like, yo, what the fuck are we even talking about here?
What? So you touched on because I agree with you as far as like creating an echo chamber, right? Like for me, even like social media activism sometimes too is, for some people when I see it, even though they're on my side, it's kind of cringy, you know. Like I've seen those kind of things, or like I'm
Yeah,
not completely sold that they're for it, but I'm not gonna criticize them either. You know, I feel like if sometimes I just try to hold judgment and like back off. So far, I haven't really had to delete or unfollow people. There's a couple I did during Blackout Tuesday. And it's not even because it's racist. It's because on that day I felt like they didn't, they were like still posting pictures about themselves, like sun tanning and stuff like that.
yeah,
And to me, I had a reaction to that. It's like, this is not what I want to see right now. You like enjoying your privilege, just like having a good day. Like today is, you need to be more connected.
yeah,
But as far as like creating an echo chamber, I am mixed on that. I am mixed on that too.
yeah.
Um, shit,
I don't
what was
even
that?
give people on the internet a chance to talk to me. I don't even talk to anybody on the internet because I'm just,
Yeah.
I feel like everybody's a troll. Everybody, even
Mm.
if you're not a troll, for some reason, the keyboard brings the troll out of
That's
everybody.
keyboard
Yeah.
privilege is a
If
real
if
thing,
I'm going to
man.
have a conversation with you, and you don't want to be face to face, I'll FaceTime your ass. We can do that.
Well, because
We
like I
don't,
think I think like the internet is the collection of ideas, and that's where people are fighting. And sometimes that's why I think about like the whole like echo chamber thing, because I feel like you shouldn't have to like shield yourself from that certain information. But at the same time, I get it. Like there is information that is not really valid.
Yeah.
You
I, I
know.
I think something too that we also have to be careful of as well, because like I've also been like, there's some like social media activism where I'm just like, Jesus, you know what I mean? Like you're
Yeah.
doing this for the clout. I also think we have to be very careful about that too, though, because it's like we don't want to like divide ourselves
Exactly.
as a
Yeah.
group, right? And I'm like this too when it comes to like music, right? Something that's completely not as important, right? But like definitely in high school, we all like the same music, but I'm gonna shit on people that likes the same music as I do because I think they're posers, you know what I mean? And really all that does, it just makes people just feel shitty about themselves, and the thing that we're supporting has less support at that point. Even something recently that happened that I think like Takashi 69 or something donated to a like a foundation that helps children and stuff like
Yeah.
that,
Youth
and
Foundation.
they were like, no, we don't accept this, and it's like, but like the isn't that like kind of like hurting our cause? It should be more like we should have they probably should have just went to Takashi and be like, look, we're not going to promote that you've done this. If you're looking for publicity from this, we're not going to promote it. However, we will accept your money and we will put it towards a greater good. So I think, that's like a really extreme example, but I think I'll deal with cringing from time to time with social media activism if the end result is that more people see it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
I was gonna say with the whole Takashi 69 thing though, what if, because that's one thing for Takashi. I think they don't want to accept his money because he's like a poser, he's done criminal shit and stuff like that, right? But you still want to take their money. But are there people, entities, or companies that you would feel like, oh, it would be a wrong move to accept their money though?
I
Let's
mean,
say the NRA.
so here's the thing, right? Like, I think at the end of the day, the object itself will, like, at the end of the day, will get is a means to an end, right?
Hmm.
It's all about like the reason why it would suck taking the NRA's money is that the public will think that they have us in their pocket.
Yeah.
If we find like thoughtful people will be able to get ahead of that and be like, look, right? We do not agree with any of their stances, right? We actually condemn their
Mm.
like we're not about that at all. However, we have the chance to take their dirty money and clean it up by putting it towards positive uh, positive outlets.
Yeah.
I think that's actually a bigger there's a bigger positive for that versus the optics of like, oh, the NRA is give funding this. There's ways to get around it, or there's ways to get ahead of it. If at the end of the day that $3 million that Takashi was going to give feeds 1,000 hungry black kids, I'd rather take that and deal with some conspiracy theorists with their tinfoil hats being like, "Oh, Takashi is funding this." You know what I mean? Like, I think it's all about like transparency. And if
Mm.
at the end of the day we talk to Takashi and be like, "Look, there's no way we're gonna be like gonna endorse you at all, right?" So on and so forth. And if he ends up being like, "Well, fuck it, then I'll take my money elsewhere," now I have this like paper trail where if Takashi goes at us, I could post. We could be like, okay, here's the conversation. We were never going to turn your money down. Were making sure that we're on the same page, that we're not going to promote what you stand for, um,
Mm.
and then the public could make the decision from there. I think at the end of the day, transparency is the key there. And if Takashi ends up saying, okay, cool, fine, that's fine with me, then great. We're taking money from somebody who doesn't deserve this money and distributing it to people that do deserve it, very Robin Hood esque, you know?
Mm.
Um, that's my thoughts on that. Any other
Yeah.
thoughts?
I mean, as far as like the whole like people that I found cringy as far as their like posts and stuff like that. Like I wouldn't say I would like hella judge them so much, and I don't criticize them openly or
Yeah,
whatever. I
yeah,
think it is just a reaction in me.
yeah, for sure.
That
Same.
thing that I see is like, like I think it just kind of like at that point it's more of a trust thing.
Yeah.
It's almost like when you like go out to a lunch with your friend you haven't seen in a while, who
Mhm.
hit you up,
Yeah.
and then like later on they're like, oh, by the way, I'm selling life insurance.
And you're like, God damn it. Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
you. Yeah, yeah. I even feel that way internally about myself sometimes. You know, sometimes
No,
I'm like,
same here. Yeah,
am I
same
gonna
here.
post this and look like a poser? But then at the end of the day, you have to kind of get over that and be like, look, the reason why, as long as I do this in a thoughtful and responsible way, I shouldn't feel scared to post this, because that very feeling is the reason why we're here where we're at now, because of the apathy that we've all kind of like lived by for
Mm,
generations, of being like, I want to do something about this, but I'm afraid that I'm gonna look
okay.
such and such, So sometimes I have to get over that myself too, and just be like, dude, no, like we all need to stop. The apathy needs to stop now.
Do you feel like social media activism, that's for anybody of you guys right now, do you think it's actually changing something? Do you think that is that like enough? Because sometimes I think about it, like, especially if people are blocking other people, creating echo chambers, and sometimes I think about it, it's like, well, that's kind of what the Russian wanted, right? It's to like divide us. And then the thing I was gonna touch upon with what you said earlier, as far as like not blocking people based on other things like music taste.
Yeah.
But when it comes to politics, though, don't you feel like sometimes certain people use their politics to it feels too convenient that their politics aligns with their like fucked up beliefs? Same thing with their religion sometimes.
I think that me personally, I grew up a Catholic, so
Yeah,
I know a lot of the shit in the Bible is skewed by a lot of other people.
yeah,
I've always felt like the Bible just tells you to do what you feel in your heart is right and be nice to everybody,
yeah.
don't judge others. Though it's a man-made book, so it's as flawless as a human. So, and we're not perfect, so
Yeah.
the book's
Yeah.
not gonna be perfect either. So there, you just got to take with the what you know in your heart is the good things, and fuck the rest of the shit. I've never really been a true Catholic. I've never, but like I just grew up with all that shit in my life, and I think a lot of people skew and take shit way too far in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Hmm.
As far as um social media and activism within social media, I can't say that there's actual tangible change that's coming out of it, but I do think there has been progress in terms of the widespread awareness of issues. And
Yeah,
I think that could only help, right?
yeah.
What at the end of the day, whether or not something actually changes is still up for grabs, because as much as it is galvanizing and encouraging to see how widespread everyone seems to be aligned in ideologies, we still haven't seen people put their money where their mouth is. You know what I mean? And like we haven't actually seen tangible real change. Sure, motherfuckers is getting charged with shit, you know what I'm saying? But
Mm.
like just this month we're seeing black people lynched still, so
Yeah, dude.
we're
That is the craziest thing to me.
and it's being ruled suicide. So
I don't
sometimes
understand who I I've so many of my friends have killed themselves, and let me tell
yeah,
you what,
same. Yeah.
none of them are public about it.
Yeah.
Every single one of them, it is a private
Yes.
situation. It is
Yes.
never a public thing.
Yes.
The very first one, when they heard about the kid in Palmdale, right? Palmdale,
Yep.
is that where it is? It's in LA. I know
Yeah.
that.
Palmdale. Yep.
In LA, that one, I was like, they're gonna find like, yeah, a bat wound to the back of the head or
Yeah.
something. Like,
Yeah.
there's no way. And then there's video of the most recent one in
Texas.
Texas or
Yeah.
something. The kid was hung in an elementary school, but they said there's video of him just doing it to himself, and it's just like,
Where's the
show me
video
this
then?
video.
Yeah, man.
Show me the evidence. I need to see this. You need to show that is something you need to show the public if that's true.
Right.
That is not something you hide right now. You
And
need to show everyone that. I don't care if you can blur the boy out, that's fine out of respect for him, but
yeah.
we need to see that no one
Yeah.
brought him to the tree. We need to see him set himself up and do that. Like,
Hmm.
setting himself up, that's more than enough.
Yeah, dude. Like like that's the scariest part too that we might not be thinking of, because on one end we're saying like, hey, social media is galvanizing the entire world because we all think the same, right? It could also be galvanizing the fucking racists and
It
seeing,
is.
you know what I
That's
mean?
the
Like
thing. It is.
they're seeing this more apparent now than ever, so they're like, we're gonna double down on our shit now. You know what I'm saying? Like there's gonna be a real and I don't want to get too conspiracy theorist on this out of respect for everyone, but I am so like more than ever, I really feel like there's gonna be some sort of civil race war.
Dude, I am there with you. Like just thinking about what's happened so far, the beginning of 2020. I just have this gut feeling, man, that like the next half or even next year, something's big's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Because the way I'm starting to see, at least with America and racism, it's I feel like America is addicted to racism, and like I feel like as we're weaning racism out or trying to cold turkey it, what they say in like AA, like they have this saying that like
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
while you're like sober, your addiction's the other side of the room doing push-ups. So I feel like this is
Holy shit.
what's scary to me right now is because like I think it's inspiring seeing all these protests happening, right? But that's our side.
You want to know something crazy right now that and Vinny, I would like you to confirm this if you could as I say it, because I saw this meme, and I know it's a meme, so that's how thin the line of reality it could be. But but it has to do with V for Vendetta. V for Vendetta is apparently placed in 2020, the year 2020,
Holy
and it says
shit.
the description is when America is destroyed by disease and civil war, a dictator leader of the UK promises you safety but not freedom, and that is so
Holy shit.
close to what's happening right now, and it's just
I
like,
know, dude.
I just got goosebumps. This is
And
fucking.
we have Anonymous.
Yeah, did you see?
yeah,
I don't want to get too far off topic, but you
I
saw
know.
posted like a couple weeks ago, right?
just saying.
Which part?
Well, I mean, like they for when they were talking about like like they're blaming of course, our government with the systemic racism, and we're gonna start to out every single one of you, and then they started dropping all the sexual assault records.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so yeah, I know about that,
Yeah,
which is crazy. It's fucking crazy because like this guy raped a 13-year-old, and he's president.
he's our fucking president. But we were all so caught up. I'm not saying we, but we as a country were so caught up on whether or not Obama was born in this fucking country.
I know, right?
That's just so crazy to me. And if that's not privilege, even at a presidential level, I don't fucking know what is.
I
Like,
know.
well,
Because
okay,
any president, and I would say if the guy's a Democrat and he did that, he's gone.
yeah,
You know.
1000%. That's what the right wing will for sure like hang on that. And and I don't want to get too far off topic because I want to try to always make sure we're centering this around
Dave
Dave's
Chappelle. Yeah.
uh, 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 speech here. But I think everything we talked about and discussed is super important to be discussed, especially coming from people that look like us, so that we
Yeah.
could present this information to other people that look like us. I keep wanting to like frame this up with like we're not talking to black people right now.
Yeah.
We're listening and learning from them, and this is what we've gathered from our learnings from them, and we need to present this um to our people that look more like us.
Yeah, and if you guys watching at home, like if we do say something that you feel like is wrong, let us know.
Yeah,
Correct.
please do.
Yeah, and even if we aren't convinced, we'll debate you on it because that's kind of like this is an open space for discussion, like. But at the same time, like I feel like I don't know when you think about the narratives out there right now, like Dave Chappelle is the guy who said this before. Like we're living in the age of spin,
Yeah, yeah,
and that I think like right now we are so divided, and like there are, and not to be a conspiracy theorist, but like in a way, I feel like you could clearly see that there are people at the top who are, like pulling some strings if they are lying to us in the
yeah,
first place.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well,
I don't know.
oh, hold on. Did we get the plot V for Vendetta?
I think- Can you blow it up?
Holy shit! That's fucking
And most
crazy.
Americans are dead.
Yo, Vinny, you think you could like expand it for me? Think.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe just like the full screen, right? Oh, okay, never mind. Uh,
Uh, command plus. There you go. Yeah, you got
there
it.
you go.
yeah.
The
Damn,
Fast
virus
boy.
runs wild in the world. Holy
That's
shit!
fucking insane.
What the
Holy shit. Okay, I don't want to get too tinfoil hat, but that's crazy.
No, it's not tinfoil hat, but I feel like at the same time, like there is something to be said with people's imaginations of predicting what will happen
Yeah,
based on history.
yeah.
Because I know, like at the beginning of this movie, you're talking about the
Remember
fifth
the
of
5th of November?
November.
Yeah,
That's a historical reference that I don't know much about, but it's history. But the other thing is just that what with what we're dealing with right now, sometimes it does fuck me up because I'm just like, is this like the plague that we're going through? Because there's in Africa apparently there's locusts, and it's fucking up people's crops and shit, and we're just in a storm of all these things going wrong right now.
yeah,
I feel like in a way, I feel like sometimes because we are still nature, we are connected to nature. I feel like the world is in a way asking us to like evolve and be better. You
yeah,
know?
man. The world is like in Final Fantasy VII when Weapon is unleashed. Weapon is being unleashed, and you know what I mean. Like we're like this is a threat to the planet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like what we're building and what we're becoming as a species is literally a threat to this entire planet. Yeah, man. It's
And, and it's like I guess with the Final Fantasy VII reference, there's like they're dealing with the oppressive system, which is fucking the macro reactors and
yeah, Shinra,
Shinra. But then there's this meteor about to hit us, the bigger like problem.
Iris. Holy shit, dude! Art, reality starts to imitate art as well. You know what I mean? And I think it's because the people that create art in many ways like access this other plane where okay, oh god, we're getting too tinfoily hatty. But I will say though that like in terms of like an artist that's always kind of art imitating reality, but also like reality imitating art, I think is also like consistent with Dave Chappelle's stand up because
It is.
like he said in this stand-up, he has always said that like when he says like, have you not listened to my comedy? Because like, bruh, he's been talking about this shit since day one. You're
Hmm.
just seeing his role in it shift. You know what I mean? And yeah, like there's other things. Like I think the biggest thing that he one quote that came from the stand-up or the speech that he gave that really resonated with me was when he talked about again we also touched on this a little bit in the beginning where how he brought us into the conversation was so engaging, how he initially talked about the Northridge earthquake, which I was
Hmm.
in LA for that. I mean, I was 3, you know what I mean, but I was
Hmm.
in LA when that happened, and my parents tell stories about it all the time and how scared they were because they were from the Philippines, bro. Like they never really experienced a real earthquake like that, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
even though like the 89 earthquake happened, I don't think my parents were in America yet when the 89 earthquake happened. I think they came shortly after. So it and they were in LA, so they didn't even feel it like the Bay Area did. You know what I'm saying? Um, so when they tell me stories about the Northridge earthquake, that was like a significant time in their lives. And the
Yeah.
way that Dave Chappelle also explained it to her is like it was so like moving to him and it lasted 30 seconds. Then he was like, this man put his fucking knee on a man's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. So that right away was so engaging and it brought you into the conversation. And that was like really moving, right? But then when he goes on to tell the story about, the black officer that reported uh, brutality from his partner, and then he ultimately got fired, and then he was like, you know what, fuck it, and waged war, and I'm not trying to condone him killing officers or killing the officer's daughter,
You guys
but
remember that?
I do remember that. Yeah,
That was crazy. I remember
that was
that
crazy.
happening, watching it on TV, watching him chase. It was like it was crazy because not I think it might have been the same year or maybe the year before the Boston bombing just
Boston
happened.
bombings.
And
Yep.
we were just watching somebody else get chased down the street,
Yeah.
down streets,
There he
dropping
is.
pipe bombs out of the car. And
Yeah.
then uh Dorn,
The
David
DC
Dorn,
sniper.
huh?
Was it the
No, no,
DC
no, the
sniper?
gentleman from LA.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Christopher Dorner.
Christopher Dorn. Christopher Dorn. I called him David Dorn. Christopher Dorn did basically the same thing, and with the pipe bombs jumping out the car, dude, that was crazy.
Yeah, I remember that time, and the crazy thing about that too is when Dave Chappelle closed it out with like 400 cops pulled up to his cabin in Big Bear, where I went snowboarding my entire childhood, uh, and just like killed them. And the reason why is because one of their own was killed by him. And then
Right.
after that, when he says, "And you guys act surprised that black people are rioting right now," Because you want to know why? It's because we saw ourselves the way y'all saw yourselves, and
Mm-hmm.
that was so powerful to me. And it's so fucking crazy that we all have to have that realization.
Mm-hmm.
And I say we
Yeah.
all because again, we all have the
Everybody did.
privilege. We have the privilege to not really register what happens when a black person is killed by the police. You know what I mean? And that was so, again, just like powerful and moving. And I think if everyone could kind of like see where Dave is coming from there, we could all like, again, I don't condone rioting. I'm not like somebody, or I'm not promoting rioting. I'm not forgiving that. I think it's a shitty situation, but I also come from the viewpoint of like, why didn't you see this coming? You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, those businesses, even if they are mom and pop businesses, bro, like that's the biggest pushback I get from people is, what about the mom and pops? Well, guess what, bruh? They could get a bank loan and get another business. George Floyd is dead forever. Like Trayvon
Yeah.
Martin's dead forever. Like the rioting, like as much as you want to make that your big argument against whatever movement this is, it's still invalid because at the end of the day, those are all material things that could come back.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, after like we went to the protest that we went to, that was a very peaceful one.
Very
It's
much so.
because usually people are there to protest peacefully. It's the cops who engage and escalate it,
Yeah,
which
man.
their job is supposed to de-escalate it, but no, they're a gang. They're gonna operate like
Facts.
a gang.
Facts.
I'm sure there's like so many corrupt shit happening behind what they're doing, and like I don't know, like kind of like what you're saying with George Floyd being dead, and that's what the thing that fucks me up with that quote where his daughter's saying, "Oh, like my dad changed the world," but then she's so young right now.
Yeah, and her dad's gone, bruh.
Yeah, like, and
Yeah.
that think about it, like growing up, I'm sure she'd rather have a dad more than someone who changed the world,
Facts.
Because
That
at this point, like I think he sparked people, and it's not even just him. Like he's just like the match.
Mhm.
But like the gasoline's been leaking
Yeah.
for a long time.
That's a fucking god damn. You just freaky goosebump over me, bro. God damn.
But I guess we're also seeing this all over the world because right now we are fighting the COVID, especially here in America. And I think people are more willing to exercise their power because right now the government shut down, and like the government is not providing anything for us.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I think people are more energized to do something about it now because
Yeah.
like racism needs to end and classism needs to end.
Yeah.
Like we're at this point where just like so many people are dying that we need to take it into our own hands. Now, whether this will keep going, I don't know because we're about to open the country again, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I feel like in many ways we're rushing the reopening of the country in hopes that this movement dies down. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Give the little people a little bit of bread so they can shut the fuck up. That's what it
yeah,
feels like to me.
yeah. It does.
And it's so dangerous to open this country up right now because we're still seeing people getting clapped by this virus. So, it's such a that's why I think it's so important that this time we all actually do something about it because we have the perfect
Yeah.
storm right now. And it's almost like a once in a lifetime chance to make a change.
Yeah,
Um,
and there's so many ways of going about helping, like donating and stuff. Like you and I went to a protest. For me, I just felt like I wanted to go to a protest because I wanted to walk the walk as well, and not because, like you said, we get to choose to step away from that.
yep.
And for me, I at least needed to like do it once. The thing is, the scary thing is, COVID is out there right now, so I
Yeah.
feel like at the same time, I want to be safe as well. I want the people I live with, my friends and family, to be safe.
Yeah. Same. It's
Yeah, so
That's the craziest part, right? We're fighting there's threats from all different areas, you know. And when I think about that, I also I'm not at every single rally, meaning because of that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But I am finding ways in with our platform that we have with and going to some rallies and going to some protests to like you said, walk the walk.
Yeah.
Uh, because at the end of the day, you know what I mean? Those are the types of dangers black people face every day,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to poor black people, right? Like even before the riots and COVID, they're dealing with street violence, police violence, and then the AIDS epidemic, the crack epidemic that is primarily happening in poor black communities. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So as scared as I am to go to these rallies because of potential police brutality and potential COVID infections, my black brothers and sisters have been dealing with this on a daily basis just to go to work. You feel me?
Yeah.
So like you said, I'm also very scared, and I also like try to be thoughtful and smart about what I do decide to do. But when there's times where it's like you and I decided to go that day because it's just like, bruh, like there's some things where we actually have to show up for our brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
Because like even knowing our history as Filipinos, right? When
Yeah.
in the 70s, when Little Manila, which used to exist in what is modern day San Francisco financial district, when they were trying to evict us out of the International Hotel,
Yeah.
who showed up for us? Black Panthers. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
We need to remember that this because like I'm seeing a lot of Filipinos that are our family that I'm arguing with on a day-to-day basis. They come with us on the all lives bullshit and all that stuff, right? Guess what, bro? Like they stood up for us when we needed it the most.
Yeah.
We need to understand if we step up and help them and show up for them when they need us the most, they're going to come right back and give us more help than we could even give. Because let's be honest, black people have so much fucking power. They just need to they just need to like organize and like
Mm-hmm.
use it towards good because cultural power is so significant and black people make the world turn when it comes to culture.
Oh,
And
definitely, definitely. But I was gonna say though, like I think black people have a lot of power in a way as far
yeah,
as influence culture,
yeah,
and the government knows that, and that's why
yeah,
they've always
that's why
stopped
exactly.
stopped those movements. You know, it's
Mhm.
because they are gonna change shit.
Yeah.
And I guess the one thing I was gonna ask you guys about how you feel about this, because for me, it sounds like a lot of times I don't know, like for me, what stops me a lot of the times from really feeling like I'm doing the right thing is not reading enough books, not like studying, and when it comes to racism, stuff like that, and even how to like run a country and stuff like that. I think like I feel like everyone needs to know that
Yeah.
because it seems to me when they're talking about the system being flawed and being racist, it's sounding to me that like maybe racism is kind of written into like what do you call that, into uh capitalism and shit like that.
Yeah.
So does that mean that for things to change we need to like live in a different society, you know what I'm saying, like a different style of government?
No,
Maybe.
I think it's more that we just need to give the same access that we have for some people to everybody. People don't have Not everybody has access, and that's based off of fucking the ability that they're able to spend and whatnot in their communities. And
Yeah.
and something that somebody posted the other day to me that didn't make sense was that what did they say? They said you don't see the same high spending on police in suburb communities as you do in say like Oakland and whatnot. But
Mm-hmm.
if you look at SRPD's uh, uh, budget, they get just as much as Oakland PD, and it's because people in the area make more money because they have the privilege of making more money. So
Yeah.
if people had the ability to make more money in every community, the same amount, uh, they can throw the same amount as whatever they're throwing at the police into the schools, into the streets, into fixing things.
Yeah.
But because they don't
Yeah.
have access, I really don't think the system is the problem. I think it's how the system's set up. It's the idea, the principle of capitalism. Everybody gets a chance to do their best is the best idea, but I don't think that's the way it's set up for everybody right now. I don't think
Well,
everybody gets the chance to even if they do their best,
yeah.
that they're set up for success in the end anyways.
Yeah. I think I think, and I'm not so sure I know the answer to this, but I think capitalism, in theory, is would work. It's just there's systemic levers
Mm-hmm.
that have been put into place that, like Sandy says, give folks access to succeeding in a capitalist society. And I don't know how easy it is to undo all of that. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
the answer is that we have to like live in a different type of society. I don't know the answer to that, but I do know that, the main reason why capitalism is only working for white people right now is because of the systemic racism that's been like implanted into the system. Is it salvageable? I don't know. I also see a bunch of communist countries living worse than we are. Uh,
No, yeah, yeah.
so I really don't know. I don't have the answer to that, but yeah,
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Like for me, it's not so much that because like you and I, Frankie, have talked about communism before, how it looks good on paper.
yeah, on paper, yeah,
No one's ever been able to pull it off, and then like yeah, like I don't want to live like China.
yeah,
I don't want to live like all these other. I think there's socialistic countries that seem to do better. Um, I guess sometimes though, when it comes to the history of America itself, that we pretty much from the very beginning, once we emancipated ourselves, we started rolling into capitalism, and it like America boomed. There's this great idea for capitalism, but at the same time, while they created capitalism, they had slaves.
yeah,
Sometimes the way I see capitalism is like in the idea of it works. I get the whole free market thing, but because of like lawmakers in Congress making it so that it benefits them, shit like that, the wealthy companies, they're able to create a monopoly, even though that's like anti-capitalistic.
yeah,
But to me, capitalism also means exploiting, exploiting resources. And back then, they saw slaves as resources. And then capitalism makes like prisons for profit, and that's in prison systems. That's where like slavery still exists. I guess for me, I just feel like with the way we're going, we're all like America's always been about money, but at the same time, there's only a few people who has that money.
yeah. And
You know?
that's why again, like I don't know the answer to this, but I lean towards keeping capitalism because I think the main problem of our capitalist system is that
Mm.
it's unequal representation. And I think
Yeah,
when your representation at leadership is more slanted towards one group of people, that's what leads to the exploitation of another side of
yeah,
another group of people, and if we could find a way to have equal representation, which I believe is the only thing black people have been fighting for this entire time anyway,
yeah,
we can see a capitalist society work the way it was originally intended to in theory.
hmm,
If we don't have equal representation, there will always be a group of people that is exploited, and that's where. But then I also know that people will push back with, well, equal representation is almost essentially a communist society because everyone gets a fair shot at the table and stuff like that. And it's like,
yeah,
you know, I don't know the nuts and bolts of it enough to like come up with a solution. But yeah,
yeah,
man, I think at the end of the day, anytime you're exploiting anybody, it's because there's more of one group of people than another, and it's like, oh, greater good type of situation. Yeah, man, I don't know, it's tough. Um,
yeah.
I wonder what Ja Rule thinks about
I wonder too,
it.
because he's
We
real.
should get him on the line. Vinny, can
Because
you
he's
call up
real.
Ja Rule, please?
Hold on, we can't let that was amazing. Because he's real is the funniest like retort to that ever.
Um, yeah. I mean, I guess for me, I don't want you guys to think I'm like anti-capitalist. I think. Oh, what happened? Oh, I guess for me, I just think that maybe the best thing would be a mixture of like all these different things. Is that Ja Rule?
Ja
Yeah, Ja.
Rule.
Where's Ja?
I like how you expanded it. The picture was so small.
Thank you.
Where's
Thank you for that,
Ja?
Vinny.
Somebody
How
find this
come
motherfucker
he?
on the
How come
phone
he
so we
has
can
like
censor all this.
he has 50 Cent's body now? Did he like?
I think that was
He
before.
worked out.
Yeah.
Was it already
The
cut?
cow was like, yeah.
Well, because like I'm just
Oh,
saying,
did he now?
because like 50 Cent basically like ruined his career, right? So
Yes.
it's just like, oh, I gotta get a body like 50.
Wait, 50 ruined Jaws' career?
1,000. What?
Yeah, dude.
Oh my god, we gotta do a podcast where we just break down our favorite rap beasts. Yeah,
Yeah. Huh.
that'd be fun. Um, we have.
Anyways, back
Yeah,
on topic.
you know, fuck, I forgot what I was gonna say. Never mind.
I guess we could, if you forgot, let us know if you remember, but we could loop back to
Yeah,
Dave
please,
Chappelle and the
please
people he called out. The people he called out, you know,
Ooh, let's do that.
because there's Candace Owens. I know we've kind of talked about Candace Owens.
Yeah, man, that's some.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know the problem, and we talked about this previously too. The problem with people like Candace Owens and the what was those twins? What were those guys' names? They're YouTubers.
Hodge twins or something
The
like that.
Hodge twins. Yeah, the problem with those guys, and again, I'm not saying that they shouldn't exist. You know what I mean? I think if that's their views, that's their views. and
Yeah.
and you know, like again, First Amendment. I actually one thing of the Constitution that I actually 1,000% firmly believe in. I just think that like we they're more dangerous than racist white people
Mm.
because they become the justification for racist white people.
Yeah, they legitimize.
Yeah, they legitimize their racist ass beliefs. And
Yeah.
it's easy and I also never articulated my thoughts on Candace Owen particularly well when I posted about her, and I ultimately like I didn't delete it because I don't believe you should delete anything you actually believe, but I do
Mm.
wish I would have like messaged it better other than just like cussing her out, you know what I mean? And just really hopefully like talk accurately articulated that the reason why Candace Owens and the Hodge twins are the most dangerous is because they empower racist white people and saying, "Look, my one black friend believes this shit." You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Um, but hopefully they could also serve as like a figure for our movement too, to say that we also have to police ourselves. And I think that's as much as like I'm not here to like tell black people how to feel about Candace Owens or
Mm.
the Hodge twins, but I could use that same example towards Filipino people and say all of our Filipino cousins and uncles and friends that subscribe to this ideology because they've earned themselves a comfortable living in this society. We need to also like not be like, well, our tito thinks that's way, so maybe there's some truth no, we need to call that shit out, and we need to say that's
Yeah.
fucking dangerous. When any of our aunties try to fucking push skin whitening uh products to any of us, we need to be like, no, fuck that. You know what I mean? Like hopefully this kind of like shows that even within our own, with people that look like us, there's policing that has policing is the wrong word. You know what I'm trying to say? There's some regulating we need to do there, because just because we look exactly the same doesn't mean our ideologies are aligned, and we need to make sure that we steer clear from that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, the thing with Candace Owens, though, I feel like the thing with her and the Republicans, I feel like they definitely put on a face.
Yeah,
You know, like I don't really trust what she's saying is something she believes. I just feel like she's smart enough to talk to the dumb crowd.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
Just like what Trump said, right? When he said like, if I in the '80s, if I ever run for president, I'm running Republican.
Yeah. Although apparently that was not a like he didn't say that.
Oh fuck! I just Xani Devito that quote.
I mean,
I, I apologize.
no, no, no.
Welcome
Apparently
to the
that's like
Xanders.
I Britted that. Fuck.
when I first saw that, I was just like, see Republicans, but apparently that was like someone just made
Fuck.
it up.
I'm so embarrassed right now.
No, it's okay, man.
No.
Honestly, like he doesn't have to say it. We know that's what he's thinking. You know.
Facts.
But yeah, I just feel like with Candace Owens, like I've only heard her talk a couple times. One in the One's in the Joe Rogan podcast. The other one is when she was talking to like Ti and Killer Mike. Way before all this, they just had like a random like event where they're talking about like you know politics and shit, and I just feel like she's like a professional bullshitter.
Yeah.
You know, like she's in there just to throw people off, just to like be a contrarian. It seems like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I it's still equally dangerous though, right? Because
Oh yeah, yeah,
he does have the ear of the masses, and
yeah.
you know,
But
it's
what did Dave Chappelle say about her again?
so the he fucking this is the goat Dave. How much of a goat Dave Chappelle is? Okay,
Uh-huh.
when he brings her up, he's like that. If even if George Floyd kicked Candace Owens in her smelly ass pussy, and I don't know if it's smelly, but I imagine it is. Yeah, and then he goes, if I find out, I will tell you guys the same way I told with Azalea. That was probably the funniest part of the stand up to me, where he's like still saying, "I still hit," you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And then goes like, and then like confirms the whole Azalea Banks rumor
yeah.
and how he told about that. Like that shit is hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta say, like, uh, I think Dave Chappelle is right when it comes to why we want to hear from him. You know, because even with his stand-ups, like he's always dropped deep shit that you
Yeah.
think about. And I don't necessarily think he's like right all the time. There's probably times I'm sure that I could disagree
Yeah.
with him. And
1000%.
like people that I listen to as far as like, like black people on Is the Mic Still On, they also well, some people just have a problem with comedy in general, like especially nowadays.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
at least with Dave Chappelle, I do think he's not trying to pander to anyone.
Yeah.
He knows his place and he makes fun of that sometimes.
Yeah.
He says, "I'm rich, bitch," like
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
knows that he's on a separate like, like basically as far as privilege
Yeah.
from a lot of people,
Yeah.
but he still could relate to you is what I feel like.
Right. Right. And yeah, I think it's also healthy for us to like listen and be a fan of people that don't necessarily have the same viewpoints as you either. You know what I mean? Like you said, with Dave Chappelle, 80% of the things he says I love and I'm aligned with. But
Yeah.
even when he was like going through the whole like fighting the fight against like the LGBT community, like as much as like at its core I was agreeing with what he was saying, I also think that I was like, dude, like the wrong community to like make the point on. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like you know what I mean? Like as much as but I still loved it. I still laughed at it and all that shit. Like you could there's ways to kind of like and no one will ever think exactly the same way you do. Even like I love Joe Rogan and maybe we're aligned on 60% of the things that he believes in. You know what I mean? That's
Mhm.
even far less than even with my friends. Like I probably wouldn't be friends with people that are like less than 60% of what we also kind of like agree on in terms of ideologies.
Yeah.
But you know, Joe Rogan, I appreciate like his perspective on things that I don't necessarily have. You know what I mean? So, you know, like and I think that also touches on like why it's so important for us to hear from Dave Chappelle because being from an older generation, we need to kind of hear that perspective too. You know,
Yeah.
but I think again, like the way he went about it is the most impactful way that he could from his position. Um, yeah. Sorry, did I get sidetracked? I feel like
No, no, you answered it pretty well. I also think sometimes too it's interesting to hear um kind of like how jokers talk about certain issues like this because he almost has that Willy Wonka like effect where you don't know like he's an honest person and where he's coming from,
yeah,
but since he's a comedian like he can
yeah,
make fun of certain things.
yeah,
You're not gonna necessarily think, oh, that's what he thinks, he's a sexist or homophobe.
yeah.
You're not gonna think that. You just know he's a joker. So
Right, right.
any of you guys
What about you, Vin? We haven't heard from you in a
I
bit. What
know.
do you think about
Um, can you repeat the question?
Well, I guess we're just going back to Dave Chappelle and what he said. Like, he's called out like people like Laura Ingraham, the shut up
Mhm.
and dribble shit. That
Mhm.
I don't even want to say that bitch's name on this motherfucker, man. Like,
Like, how do I feel about like him talking about them? Is that what you're getting at?
yeah. I guess like we're just trying to like get into the details of the things he actually said in his
Mhm.
speech.
I think if I hopefully I word this correctly. I think that like it's sort of like I don't know. It's really hard to explain. It, you can call people out on things for sure, like
Mm-hmm.
how he got called out, and he definitely like feels like he doesn't really need to speak upon it because it's been happening for a while, and he's been obviously uh, been an advocate through like his comedy sketches, and he
Yeah.
would of course like mention a lot of it as well. Um, honestly, it's hard for me to put in words. I can't really explain it, and I don't know like too much about it to fully express how I feel either.
Mm-hmm.
I still have to like me personally. I still have to get some knowledge upon it. Been really like closed doors upon the situation too. I'm learning a little bit more, so I like I said, I can't really express how I feel upon what has he's said, only because I'm not knowledgeable upon
Yeah.
most of
Mm-hmm.
it.
I think that's a healthy approach too, though, because there's so
Yeah.
many people who don't know what the fuck they're talking about that keeps talking.
Right.
You know what I mean? And even those of us who like myself, I think I know a lot about this. I've done so much learning the
Mhm.
past month that I think that's just really the best stance we could take as allies. You
Mhm.
know, and um, that's why I think it is important to hear from people like Dave Chappelle for us, not for Black people. Like they didn't have to hear from Dave. You know what I
Mhm.
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
He
That's
knew.
why.
You know what I mean? Like
Oh, sorry.
no. Yeah. I mean, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say that's why sometimes with the whole like social media thing and stuff like that, like I've seen other people post saying too, like black people don't need to be reminded how much their lives matter. Like we need to be reaching out to the opposition, you know. And so that's what I think about it. And I try that with one of my stories, like trying to like talk to all lives matter by doing the hashtag.
Hmm.
And what's crazy is like I gotten so many views off of that story from the Black Lives Matter. I got like over 400.
Wow.
But then for the out like what alt like they're almost the same people. Alt
Yeah.
right, all
Yeah.
lives, they're the same people almost.
Facts.
Um, two people watch my shit from them, you know.
Damn.
So it's like at the same time, only two people reach about that,
Yeah.
and then they didn't even go to the very end where like ask people to donate.
Do you think
So
it's because folks on the right are more prone to creating echo chambers?
they are, they definitely are. I'd say so. I feel like to be honest, when the whole in 2016 when like the Russians hacked to rig us and divide us through Facebook and shit.
Hmm.
I'd say a lot of times from what they found is that people on the right have fallen into it more than people on the left because people on the left just stopped using Facebook,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, we was on Snapchat, bro.
Yeah.
Product
But for me,
In
oh, sorry.
2016, I was on Snapchat. I was sending dick. No, never mind.
Mm, I mean, for me, I guess I'm more like left, I would say, but I hate aligning myself with like,
The loony left. Yeah, me too.
yeah,
It's because here's the thing too. Like, I think you go too far on either side, it's hard to like find any credibility. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Because it's just like too extreme, and like there, I think it's important for us who are on the left but aren't like wearing tinfoil hats, um, to be more vocal than ever because the far left and the far right are the loudest. They're not
yeah,
even, and they're not even the majority of each party. They're just the
yeah,
loudest. You know what I mean? So it's up to us that's like in the left, that's not like all the way to the west side. You know what I'm saying? Like to now stand up and speak and be like, look, here's actually what we're trying to accomplish.
yeah,
Fucking fuzz out all the noise that's coming from that side. And I also think it's important for us to hear, and I don't want to like, I don't want this to, I'm going out on a limb here. I think it's also important for us to hear from folks that are swaying towards right, but maybe more not, maybe more in the middle than,
yeah.
because
Well,
hopefully we could, those are the people that we could also potentially like make logical sense to.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
Actually, like reach
those
out to.
people, there's a chance for us to educate them, or not even educate them, because a lot of them are more educated than we are even, but like see another perspective and recognize that their experience isn't the only valid one. I think
Yeah,
that's all it takes for those guys, because they're not uneducated. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They just don't recognize that there's other experiences in this country than theirs. And if we could get them to see that, recognize that, and appreciate that, and again, it's also kind of like touching into the whole like we need to, as much as like in theory saying that we don't see color, we don't, that's the ultimate goal. We also need to recognize that like that might not be the helpful thing to think about. Right, that's a helpful way to see things right now. We should see color, but we should like, by not seeing color, we're almost like dismissing other people's experiences. We should see color, we should see their experience, we should try to learn from everyone's different experiences, and then accept everyone for regardless of,
Yeah.
so if we could teach that concept to folks that are in the right, that is more in the middle versus far right, I think we're all going to be able to come together.
Yeah. There's two things I wanted to like uh comment on based on what you're saying. One, as far as like when you think about, I heard this quote, right? Where if you think about the population who, who's the majority, is it the Republicans or is it the Democrats?
Hmm.
The correct answer is that what makes up most of the population is neither. It's non-voters.
Hmm.
So yeah, like at the same time, I feel like a lot of times what we see in the media are the fringes, are
Yeah.
the like extreme.
Yeah.
But they don't describe the whole,
Not at all.
and I
Yeah.
guess like it's easy to get lost in that.
Yeah.
Um,
That's why rock the vote and shit is a thing, because we're trying to galvanize people who don't vote. You know,
yeah, yeah. Man, what was the other part that I was gonna say? I was gonna touch on.
was it about like not seeing color, that piece?
Oh yeah, yeah. As far as not seeing color, like I remember that people would say that before, and it's become a joke now. But I feel like when you don't see color like that, that's whitewashing.
That's true. You know,
Yeah.
again, like I understand the thought process behind it. Like I saw one video where like a white dad posted a
Hmm.
video of his son, and he's like pointing at a kid who's white. He's like, "What is that?" He's like, "A boy." He's like, "What is that?" And it's a black kid. He's like, "A boy." And then it's like, I get the idea is that like, again, people are taught to see different perspectives, and
Hmm.
initially your innocence makes it so you don't see that, right? But I think the reality is like we have to be all different but together, and if we could accept that like Xani Devito's experience as a white man, as much as it's easy to scrutinize that experience because he's a white man, there's so much validity to it that we could all learn from, and also apply to our lives, that would make our lives better. And
Hmm.
same goes with us as Filipinos, same goes with King Kongfetti as a Cambodian from Canada. You know what I mean? Same, and especially goes for our black brothers and sisters. There's experiences within all of us that we need to not dismiss and say, I don't see it because we're all the same. We're not. We all come from very different cultures, social,
Yeah.
economic classes, and things like that. And we need to be like, yo, your experience is valid. Tell me more about it. And then have a seat at the table. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? That's a big
It
thing.
it's more like no matter what our differences are, like we're still equal in value.
Yeah.
You know.
And we can't keep going with this whole in like this whole diversity thing where this country is like, hey, we're the racism doesn't exist because look, everyone's in the country, everyone has the right to vote, because that's diversity, right? There's a big difference between diversity and inclusion, right? Diversity is being invited to the dance, right? You're at the dance, we're all here at the dance. Inclusion is being asked to dance. And I think that's such an important thing to like really remember, is that while we all are here, right? We're all humans, yes. That's the one race is human race, sure. But we need to also recognize that we all come from very different places. We're all raised very differently, and we all need to put all of that together in this beautiful gumbo. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's the way to really get there. So, yeah.
I'd say as far. I mean, I completely agree with what you're saying. But I was just gonna go back to the Dave Chappelle speech. Like, I feel like for the most part, we all agree with what he said. He has a way of saying things that, I mean, inspired me. It galvanized. Um, I'm pretty sure it galvanized the movement even more.
Mhm.
But do you also feel like he didn't really say much then, since there's not much we could speak to other than the things we were already thinking about. Like I guess there's just a difference between what his delivery style, how he put things together. Do you feel like it's enough that he said that? Like I know he wants to take the back seat and let the youth do it, but I don't know. What does this speech really mean in the context of history, his role in it with his platform?
I think it just says where he stands.
Yeah.
I think, and especially just in history, if history's always been a big thing for me. People who are famous aren't in the history books. The reason why they're in the history books, if they are, is because they made an impact on history in some way that's usually recorded by their death.
Or they're winners considerably, like, you know
Well,
what I mean?
like who? Because like the actor that I'm thinking about that I can think of last that's in the history book
Oh.
Yeah, I think he's
is
mostly
You're talking about
celeb,
actors. Never mind. I'm talking
well,
about just
not just actors, comedians, people who have fame and
celebrities.
wealth,
yeah.
who like we were discussing before, I personally don't think should have a big voice in what happens in the streets and what happens with the young people.
Yeah.
The people that I see in the history books that are actors, people that made a difference, actresses are like the guy Williams Booth who killed fucking Abraham Lincoln. He's an actor, killed the president. That's why he's in the Marilyn Monroe, actress, huge sex symbol. The
Sucked off
reason
the
why she's in
president.
the history books, fuck the president. That
Mm,
like it's because it had like uh, actors and stuff are never seen as politicians, and nor should they really be seen that way either. They should have opinions just like any human being. Their opinions should be validated, but I feel like they should only speak to what they know,
Yeah,
and speak to who they can in their own level about the situation,
I
and make
yeah.
their own level understand what they already understand. Dave Chappelle telling me what I already know is not helping. Dave Chappelle telling his friends who are actors and may think that they're doing the right thing but are really just virtue signaling, he needs to talk to them. Those are the people that he should be talking to. He
Okay.
should be talking face to face with Don Lemon about how he's portraying the situation and how he's apparently wanting all these famous people to talk.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see that conversation on CNN. It's Dave Chappelle with Don Lemon about the whole thing.
yeah,
That would be that is what I think celebrities should be doing. I don't think they should be talking to us. I think they should be talking to each other and making it public that they're talking to each other about it.
Mm.
yeah. I agree with a lot that you said there. I think another dynamic to what Dave Chappelle did here, and I want to preface this with I agree that he shouldn't like Dave Chappelle should only talk about what he's sure of, right? Like so that you're not presenting false information to the public. So I think while he didn't say anything that was so grandiose and 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 thought provoking per se, I think what he the value in what he did and what most celebrities can do, because like you said, celebrities aren't included in the history books when it comes to actual like socio-political change. So celebrities should be a vehicle for that, right? They should be providing the platform for Malcolm X, which I believe Muhammad Ali and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did a huge job in making people like Malcolm X um, visible to the
Yeah.
country. You know what I mean? So Dave Chappelle, hopefully, what he's doing is he's presenting the very basic idea of what we're trying to get across on a widespread basis to folks that not want to might not want to see what's happening. People like us who have the privilege to turn this shit off if we want to. Hopefully, Dave Chappelle kicks that door down and says, "Bruh, this is what's happening." You know what I mean? And hopefully, through that, people who were maybe apathetic towards what's happening now they do their research and they look up Black Lives Matter, they look up National Bailout Fund, they look up people like Colonel James West and those folks who are on the forefront of social change.
Mm-hmm.
um, so I think while he didn't say anything again grandiose and anything crazy, I think his this speech will have the same amount of impact as, do you remember Muhammad Ali's speech when he was speaking at a college and this was after he avoided the draft to the Vietnam War based on his religion. And they were talking about like, like, oh, do you not care about our country? You're not fighting for us. And he's like, look, y'all won't even fight for me here. So why would I go to another country and fight for a country that isn't fighting for my people? When it comes to my people getting economic equality, getting political equality, getting basic human rights, you are my oppressor, not the Viet Cong. You're my oppressor. And that was such a culturally significant speech coming from a celebrity. He didn't say anything that we didn't already know.
Right.
But since Muhammad Ali is the greatest boxer of all time, he dodged the draft because of his religious beliefs, and he made a very basic political statement. But then from that, the Black Panthers became more pushed to the forefront and things like that. And I think it's super important for Dave Chappelle, even if he is making somewhat of a non-statement, to at least present the very basic ideas to the masses, so that we are giving the platform to the people that need to have the platform. And I do firmly believe, if we're going to talk about the art that Dave Chappelle has put out with 846, obviously it's not a like, I wouldn't compare it to any of his other stand-ups, but I think this might be the most culturally significant thing Dave Chappelle has ever produced, because not only was it well thought out and
Articulated,
presented, yeah,
sure.
articulated and presented properly, I think that is one. Have you guys watched Avid Children? The Final Fantasy VII Avid Children. Remember when Cloud is fighting Sephiroth, and it's his battle, and he's gonna fight Sephiroth, but the thing that helps him beat Bahamut is when he's like trying to jump and to get up to that level to make that hit, and then Barrett comes out of nowhere, pulls him up, and then Tifa comes out of nowhere, pulls him up. Kites all of his people in the party, fucking grabs Cloud's hands and throws him up in the air, and then Zack and Aerith's ghost pull him up in the air to get to the level where he needs to be to make the hit. That's what Dave Chappelle, I think, is doing for this movement. He could become that catalyst, that kind of like what Pac said before. He's not going to change the world, but he's going to spark the minds that do.
Yeah.
I think that's what Dave did here. So, if I'm going to compare this body of work, I think it's as culturally significant as what Muhammad Ali did in the 60s and the 50s. And, as much as like Kendrick put out To Pimp a Butterfly 5 years ago, he's trying to tell us all of this stuff already. I think Dave Chappelle has the potential to put out something like that, where it's like his art and a statement all in this one fucking masterpiece. I pray that Dave Chappelle does like a full hour stand-up special of this as like its basis, and then he makes jokes around it, so he could have his To Pimp a Butterfly. What I think 846 is Dave Chappelle's Untitled Unmastered, where it's like you could see this is the ideas that's gonna fuel his magnum opus. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's
Yeah. I hope so, because I mean, the thing with Dave Chappelle, it's like he does have a very powerful voice, and he has like a very he's an artist, and I feel like a lot of times when it comes to bringing about change to the world, it sometimes artists have a strong hand in that, because we're the ones who are able to see outside the box and shit like that, right? And I guess as far as Dave, kind of like what he said though, like the streets are talking for themselves. So I guess it's just that, like, I think he definitely has a very inspiring word. I think he can help people, but do you think that like he needed to say anything in the first place? Because the streets are talking for themselves, like, do they really need him right now?
I mean, like, need is a strong word, but I will say yes, though, because if we want to see some real change, obviously, whatever we've been doing previously was not working.
Yeah.
And we almost need to have like a spirit bomb where every living thing contributes to make this happen. So while maybe we did quote unquote need Dave Chappelle to say anything, I will
Mm.
still say I think we need everyone who believes in what change we need to make
Yeah.
to use their platform somehow. Maybe it's not, maybe like us, we don't have to do like a whole album about it. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? But us doing a talk like this and constantly promoting places where folks need to donate to, that's something that we're doing. Maybe
Yeah.
Dave Chappelle doesn't have to do a full hour, but the fact that he did this 30 minutes, I think like, it's needed. I think it's all hands on deck, bro. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
I guess because with what you're saying, you hope this is gonna be his masterpiece, especially what's gonna come out and what his speech means right now. And I guess what I was just gonna say is it's important because of the times that we're doing. Like I guess a lot of times important art does come out when shit is happening in the world, and art always reflects the times. You
Mhm.
know, and that's what usually lives on and gets preserved. That's the best representation of the moment and how that representation could change the narrative moving forward. So I guess I agree with you. I agree with you when it comes to like Dave Chappelle speaking out. I was asking because like I feel like with this talk, maybe it's because nothing he said is controversial to us. I guess because we agree
Yeah.
with him that it is harder to pick apart with what he said. We're just talking about like things outside of what he said.
And the funny thing too is I'm always being constantly reminded too when I'm talking to people online that our thoughts aren't controversial. Let's not be fucking racist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like you said, it's not controversial what he's saying. And there's a lot of things where we wanted this to be really centered around things Dave Chappelle said, but really the conversation is why is this controversial? And I think that's why like we talked mostly about like the environment and the temperature of society versus exactly specifically what Dave's talking about.
Yeah.
And I think that's another reason why Dave also didn't have much to say either, because it's like, bruh, I think that's the beauty of it too, is like how simple his idea was, and the most like crazy like metaphorical thing he did was comparing the shortness of the Northridge earthquake and how much that impacted him, and
Mhm.
the length of time that fucker's knee was on George Floyd's neck.
George
I
Floyd.
mean,
Yeah.
that was the only grandiose like connection he made, and it's almost like a Fonte record. It's like it's
Mhm.
super simple and it's right to the point, but it's impactful.
Yeah. I know. What do you think, Danny? You have anything to add to that?
Um, no, not necessarily. Just some updates on things that have happened while we've been talking.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm sure you guys know about the police officer in Atlanta was charged with first degree murder and all that.
Hmm.
Due to that, six precincts
Rashad?
in yes, due to that, six precincts police officers have now abandoned their precincts, and Atlanta is basically there's no cops that are going to be anywhere in Atlanta right now.
That's crazy because the whole Rashad Brooks. After hearing about that, I listened to Is the Mic Still On? And apparently they live so close to that when these
Wow.
like FIFO like drives by that he says like every
Damn.
time he's commuting to work.
Damn. I gotta listen to like
That's
I've been
crazy.
like avoiding dead end hip hop and needle drop and stuff for our music reviews, so I
Yeah.
don't like slant my opinions on them. But I should listen to Is the Mic Still On just to hear, dead end hip hop's views on what's going on right now, because they're from Atlanta, they're from
Yeah.
Georgia, and they're different generations too. You got the young boy and FIFO, you got the old head and Ken, and then
Yeah.
everything in between. So it's definitely I gotta listen to that.
I honestly I love listening to them because like I barely listen like actually go to dead end hip hop now because I don't. Yeah, I'm the same way when it comes to like music and albums right now. I don't want my
We're
opinion.
peers now, bro. We're peers
Exactly.
now, you know
Exactly.
what I
But
mean?
I'm the same way because I was like I rely on these critics to put me on to new music,
Yeah,
at least to check them out even if they didn't like it. At
yeah,
least I'm learning about new shit. But I don't want their opinion to change mine because I know like I differ opinions from like Fantano from time to
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah,
But that probably would have been different if I heard his like opinion first.
yeah, for
Like
sure.
I would admit that my opinions could be affected by people like that.
Yeah.
But um as far as is the mic still on? I feel like I learn a lot through them and like the
Yeah,
black experience.
yeah,
So I definitely like recommend them. So
for sure. I definitely peep the most recent episodes they posted.
yeah.
Um,
I
but
guess
yeah,
from
man.
there. Oh,
Oh,
good.
go ahead.
I was gonna say, I guess we could move into like one topic, kind of, which is like relevant to what we're talking about right now. Um, and then we could see what else we want to talk about. But I guess I was just gonna bring the whole problem with the police. Of course, that's like what sparked this whole thing off. And now, like for me, I've been touting the whole defund the police movement and stuff like that. I'm for that, but at
Yep.
the same time, that's something completely new to us.
Yeah,
We've never thought about that. I mean, we've also never thought about like what happened, which actually happened during the Obama administration, is they became more militarized. They got
yeah,
more funding for that kind of shit.
yeah, for sure.
But
And it's been building, dog. Like even Clinton. Do you remember when Clinton was like, his whole thing was like, we need to hire more police,
there's
and not
that.
only hiring more police, hiring them in high crime neighborhoods, black. You know what I mean? Like,
There's that, but even before that, I guess you could keep going back and back
yeah,
in time because there's
yeah,
Reagan and the whole
yep.
war on drugs, which
We're on
I think
drugs.
was for
Yeah.
against colored people. Like
And I believe, and I'm sure James could correct me on this because he's a little bit more knowledgeable about like historical policies. But I do believe that the one president that was trying to limit the power of the police was JFK, and that's why there's a lot of conspiracy theories as to that's why he's been assassinated, because he was the one that was trying to actually regulate a lot of these law enforcement and all of these arms, right?
Well, that's part of it. If you read the JFK papers, which are available for everybody to read online, you will find that Lyndon B. Johnson actually was a grand wizard of a Ku Klux
Oh
Klan
wow,
in Kentucky or whatever his home state was,
not
and
surprised.
the whole reason he hired someone in the FBI to kill JFK, and the and it had to do more over the fact that JFK was about to sign the Civil Rights Bill, and
Yeah,
then after the whole thing with MLK happened, he LBJ eventually was like, in a sense forced to sign the civil rights stuff. So, but he found a loophole through the police and whatnot, and then we can go to like you can go all the way up to Joe Biden when I think it was '99. He's the one who came up with the mass incarceration bill and
oh yeah,
doing
Joe Biden did.
no, yeah, and he was a huge segregationist when he first started as a politician. So it's like they're both wings, brother, but they're the same bird.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, like I'm huge for defunding the police, and because, like you said, they've become more militarized, and it's more of a war against people versus serving the people. I think by defunding the police, we're able to fund so many other programs that will prevent folks from falling into crime in the first place. There's no reason why the police get as much funding as they do, but our teachers are paid fucking peanuts. And
Yeah.
though and a lot of the reason why folks fall into crime is because of the lack of structure that they are given in their communities growing up. Uh,
Hmm.
and no matter what we do in terms of funding, we're not going to see the positive changes in mass for at least another generation. And that's why we need to invest in the next generation. And by defunding the police, we could invest in more mental health programs that make it so that there's less, there's just so many things we could fund by significantly slashing what the police force is given. That would also, I think another thing too is that, like, we have a mentality as a society that we don't have any responsibility to be good people to each other because there is a force that's going to force us to do so. If the police isn't this brooding figure that's kind of like being the lunch, like the schoolyard teacher looking over us, we're more inclined to help each other as a community versus, running amok until the cops catch us. So I'm all for the defunding of the police. I would strongly even say potentially abolishing the police by, because if we do fix the overall racist system, maybe it's an antiquated uh, body of a governing body. Maybe it is, right? So I think the first step for sure is significantly defunding the police, and we could go from there and see kind of what we could do as a society.
Yeah. I guess when it comes to that, it's like what are the goals of the police to begin with? Because if it's to fight crime, it seems like they need crime, to keep existing, to keep operating.
I mean, it's also the privatized prison systems.
Yeah.
Their job is to funnel motherfuckers into that to continue this concept of slavery.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not so much like, oh, we're trying to solve the crime here in this area. It's more like we're trying to basically use crime as that's our product.
Killer
That's
Mike, I think Killer Mike touches on it in the new Run the Jewels album,
yeah.
the song "Walking in the Snow," where he talks about how like his whole verse is like, look, the freest you are is from the ages 1 to 4, because once you go to
Mm,
school, they're gonna start grading you and all that. And
yeah.
really, what they're trying to find out is who is the best fit to get put into the prisons here. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Because then that's going to continue this concept of slavery, because prison
yeah.
labor is slave labor, and privatized prison systems, who are the dog catchers that puts them into the police. It,
Mm-hmm.
I really think that, like, while a huge step would be defunding and potentially abolishing the police, the next problem that we need to tackle is the privatized prison system, because that's
Yeah.
slavery in 2020.
It is.
I
It
think
is.
I could argue that I think that might be the thing we need to focus on first. While demilitarizing and defunding the police is a good idea as well, I'm not for necessarily abolishing them, because there is always going to be horrible people in the world. There's always going to be the Marilyn Mansons. There's always going to be the Ted Bundys. There's always going to
Marilyn
be
Manson.
not Marilyn Manson, Charlie Manson, Charles Manson.
Marilyn Manson somewhere sucking his own dick. Being like, what the
He's
fuck am I
something.
doing?
He's great.
Where's the cop? Where's the cop? He needs to
Where are the
stop.
police when Marilyn Manson walks in the room? But like, I think
911.
I think it needs to be more
Firefighters
focused.
listening to Marilyn Manson.
Right.
Oh,
I think it definitely shit needs to be toned down. The privatization of prisons, I think, is a huge factor into why we have mass incarceration. If
Yeah.
it wasn't privatized and it was, I don't know what it would be, because I've
actual
never.
rehabilitation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like things could be. I think that would be a big step and change in the right direction.
I totally agree. You know what I mean? If we could get rid of that institution, everything kind of like trickles down.
It all falls apart. Yeah.
But I do think that the most actionable thing we could do is to defund the police, because
Absolutely.
the privatized prison systems, America will fight for that, bro. Like the same way
Yeah.
that the Confederates fought for slavery, and the North kind of been like, oh no, we killed slavery, bro. Don't worry. You know what I mean? Like, so it's there, bro. Like you said, the real evil, like, when you're I'm gonna always tie things back to Final Fantasy VII. The real like Shinra seems to be like the surface level evil, which is the
Yeah.
police. The real evil is the Genova, which is privatized prison system. But really, even before that, it's the racism. Because the privatized prison systems are still operating under the assumption that we're going to fill this with black people.
Mm-hmm.
So the most actionable item we could work on, I think, is abolishing or defunding the police, and then hopefully we could keep making progress from there.
And if the goal is to lower crime, like it seems like so far a lot of law enforcement, when they declare war on something, it fails.
Yeah.
War on drugs, it just became more of an organized crime because they declared war on drugs, and then you have
War on
people from the
drugs is-
police who's probably like in it too as well. What were you saying, Jay?
It's all a scheme. The war on drugs has always been a scheme.
Yeah.
The United States bought the cocaine from Colombia,
Yep.
dropped it off in the fucking neighborhoods by plane, You're more likely to die of a brick of cocaine falling from a
Facts.
plane than you are from marijuana in this country.
Yeah.
Like there, then you got the CIA. It's proven in documents that the CIA has been funneling money and doing this shit for years, running guns to cartels. It's been happening. It was a huge thing when Obama was president. I don't know if you guys remember Fast and the Furious scandal, but for some reason we decided it was a good idea to give the Mexican cartel bunch of militarized weapons and tanks.
Hmm.
Whose idea was that? I don't know. Somebody's, but the government did it. Like the government's never been on anybody's side. That's my thing.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. What
It's
was that?
it's just crazy. The government is always going to be against us, and it's unfortunate that's a necessary evil, but we're too big of a country to live like Vienna or what? Not Vienna, the Vatican, where
Yeah.
everybody can kind of just govern themselves essentially, because it's what the Pope runs that bitch. I guarantee he's not making laws there.
Hmm. I also think that when it comes to like, as far as the war on crime, if they're really trying to lower crime, it seems like okay, the cops aren't working. They seem to be an idea of the white American dream, of like of the cops running shit, but it's like totally like totalitarian and fascist. It seems like if we want to lower crime, they should have been like focusing on education or schools and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, just to echo off on that. I just feel like yeah, like defunding the police definitely like you could put all that money into education. You could put all that money into like some things that are worth a lot more. And then like just I don't want to echo because a lot of what you guys said is basically what I was gonna say. Like I just feel like if they like did that, put in education, like I know for a fact that my boy who's on the streets wouldn't have to sell drugs because he would have got a good education.
Hmm.
I just know a lot of people that are like trying to like make it, but they can't make it, so they resort to crimes to try to make it. And if they put that money into education or into these like poorer areas and give these kids a better education and whatnot, they wouldn't have to look towards
Yep.
illegal outputs to make their money to like try to meet like whatever, you know.
Another
Also,
reason that all this shit is happening is because we got a lot of fatherless kids
Yeah.
in poor neighborhoods, and that's because of mass incarceration as
yep.
well.
And
They're
also,
all it's these kids aren't given reasons to know what right and wrong is.
yeah,
They're just shown that whatever their dad was doing, he got fucked for, but he was making a lot of money. No one's there to explain the situation,
yeah, man.
and
And
that's true for most of the culture.
all of those things touches a chord with me specifically because y'all know, everything that happened to me growing up. But I think another thing too is mental health institutions and
Hmm.
the availability of that because the reality is it's going to take a long time to turn around these social economic or the economics of historically uh, disenfranchised communities. But what we can start to do is provide kids that are products of that community some help with professional mental help to deal with the PTSD and all of the mental issues that come with growing up poor, disenfranchised, and your dad not being around. All of that. You could still save some of these kids that are a product of that community if they have the proper mental help, because
Yeah.
other without that they don't know how to properly process the trauma they've been through, and they just end up in the cycle of violence and crime and being in the system. So like all of those things, take the money from the police, put it in education, take it away from the police so they're not putting people's dads in jails unjustly, and then for the unfortunate people that have been through poor education and not having their father and all the police brutality, give them an outlet to exercise their demons, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah. And the other thing I would say is like what is criminalized in this country if it's not for what they consider like black crimes?
Yeah.
Because who, if you think about it, who has a bigger impact when it comes to crime? Is it like the small petty thieves, or is it these like big CEOs stealing from the whole
Shit,
country?
that's big facts, bro.
So it's
They,
like because that's a white crime, they're treated like bosses, while
yeah, they
like
get a
brown
slap
people,
on the
they're
wrist, brother. Like they get a
exactly.
slap on the wrist, even if they go to jail. They got their feet up, and
Yeah,
their peoples are still fed and paid. They're fed and paid, and their
yeah,
companies are still in our communities giving us diabetes and shit. You feel me? Like,
yeah.
yeah, man. It's yeah, like you said. Yeah, I think we all nailed it on the head there. To be honest.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what else came up like so far that you guys know since all the protests and stuff like that?
A lot.
I get, I guess the one thing we could talk about is the man in the seat right now, how he's handled shit and all the like the police brutality that's happening in the protests, you know?
He's encouraging it.
Oh
Poorly.
yeah, yeah.
Very
All you
poorly.
say. Yeah, that's not a leader, bro. That's a that's not a leader. He's a cult leader. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like cult leaders make it us against the world, and that's why you follow me. Real leaders will actually find a solution, and he's not. He's like, oh, you don't agree with us? You finna get shot. You know what I'm saying? And
I feel like real leaders teach you how to lead,
yeah, yeah,
you know?
yeah. He he keeps yeah, like you said, real leaders teach you how to lead, so one day you could have your own. You know what I'm saying? He is continually trying to make us need him. That ain't a yeah. I don't have too much else to say on him. Fuck that guy. I'm pretty sure he's still gonna get a second term, but you know,
What's really just pissed me off the whole thing about this the one time he handled how that old man when he was pushed on the ground and he started leaking from the back of his head said that man was an Antifa and bruh, come on. He's 75 years old. The man is
Yeah.
leaking from the back of his head. None of that was okay. And the fact that the cops were like, no, keep walking, keep walking. And it was just like the one dude I know like that wanted to check on him didn't push him, but he got fired anyways because he was told to keep walking.
he was
And it was just
complicit.
like, yeah, it's like you shouldn't have listened. That wasn't the time to listen, man. You don't have
Yep,
to. You,
yep.
you're that's like exactly like Nazi soldiers saying, "I was just listening to orders."
And
No,
that's
bro.
why the police is
You
a
knew what
fucking
the right thing to do was in that situation. You chose the opposite because they were quote unquote orders.
yeah. When
That's where you should have lost your job helping that man, not losing your job walking away.
and
And we're
that's
talking about cops. We're not talking about fucking the military who's like, I'm just following orders.
man,
Right.
like so that and again that just touches on the that police is to me is an antiquated governing body because the police are supposed to serve the people, and when you're having moral dilemmas of, well, I got to take care of my brothers, then you're not serving the people, my G. You're in a gang.
Yeah.
That's just what it is. Can we just like call it that? Like that's why it's like some of these conversations are just like fucking common sense at this point, and it's like, like, yeah,
So I
I
just
know,
being America.
yeah, man, and yeah, fuck 12, fuck Trump. Yeah, I don't want to. I'm getting angry. I need to chill out.
No, I mean, he's like a villain, you know, if you ever saw one.
He's such a good heel.
I mean, he's got us worked, bro. We're worked right now.
I know, man.
Yeah, yeah.
We need Kofi Kingston. We need Kofi Mania in America, bro.
Yeah, I just don't understand why like our country is divided right now. And like I understand.
I don't think it's just our country. I think we're only being shown our country. If you look
Yeah,
at, I've seen videos from the UK and it's pretty divided there too.
Oh yeah.
I can guarantee you the other countries are not doing much better. There's not many other countries with as many civil rights laws as we have in a few other countries in Europe have, and we're still doing
mhm,
shitty. So I mean, imagine what it's like. India and China are at war right now for some reason. I don't even know
that's
why.
right.
Yo, I have a huge tinfoil conspiracy as to why we're divided as a people, but we're already 3 hours in, and we'll get into it some other time.
3 hours in. Holy shit.
Yeah, it's 11:50.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Damn. I mean, there's so much to flesh out. This is such
We
like
could we could go on this for eight,
Yeah.
10 hours. We could talk
Yeah.
multiple days about this. There's so many
yeah.
topics we can go over,
Yeah.
but we just be repeating ourselves at that
I
Yeah.
point.
I guess we could start to wrap this up, but I want to hear guys from you guys when as we wrap it up. what your predictions are, where you see things are going, and what needs to happen so we could have a good future. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So, anyone want to?
Mine's short, sweet. Remember the 5th of November.
Oh, damn. That's ominous and hopeful at the same time.
Yeah.
So,
The gunpowder treason. Just remember. That's
Now
all
that
I
I know that it's like almost predicting what's happening right now, I'm gonna rewatch
Oh,
it again.
shit.
Maybe I'll take some acid and just really fuck my head up. You know what I mean?
Hey, I'm with
The
you. I have
answer-
it. Let's watch it, bro. We'll
Have
both
at it.
watch it tripping.
I
Um,
haven't. I was gonna say
What are you doing on Friday? Juneteenth? Is that our
Juneteenth.
celebration.
Yeah, I got work the next day.
Let's talk
Uh,
about doing drugs offline.
I know, I know.
Dude, maybe Monday.
my prediction.
The
The Simpsons already predicted
Oh
it.
shit!
Simpsons
Oh.
did predict it.
They predicted a big riot outside the White House, and then him dying. I just feel like some shit's gonna go down. If this is like if not this, some crazy shit
I
for
want to
for
put
the
a
change.
disclaimer out
Shit.
there that we in no way are endorsing anybody killing anybody.
We are not, but like
We
yeah.
just
But the
we're just saying we
Simpsons
feel this
said-
The
shit coming to a
Simpsons,
head.
yes.
We
But
feel this shit
yeah.
coming to a head. I've been feeling this shit coming to a head for quite some time now. So
Some crazy shit's gonna happen. I
The
just
Simpsons are always predicting everything, though.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
yeah.
then they
Can
went
they
fucking
predict
out
the
of
ratings?
Futurama.
They literally predicted everything. Though.
Yeah,
Like,
they
Dude,
have.
I watched the episode of Futurama. They predicted the movie, the Adam Sandler movie where he has to fight video games.
Oh wow.
They
Oh,
predicted
Pixels?
that in Futurama, bro. Yeah, Pixels. They fucking did. I just watched the episode today. I was like,
I don't think they predicted that. I think Adam Sandler stole
Stole
their
that.
idea.
Oh wow.
hey, you're not wrong. that could
No.
very well be it. I didn't think about it that way, but I smoke a lot of
Can you,
pot.
can
going-
But
you
a lot of
imagine
pot.
Nostradamus?
I buried the Pixels movie in the deepest recesses of my mind, along with all the trauma and abuse that I've gone through. And when you said that, I just had like Vietnam flashbacks.
Can you imagine though? We're talking about like things you predicted, and like, oh, Nostradamus predicted Family Guy. You know, it's like,
It's like, no, bro, Family Guy. That's comedy.
Gotta end it on a light note. We gotta end it on a light note.
Wait, no, I didn't give my prediction yet.
Oh yeah, what's the
I'm
prediction?
sorry.
Who was saying their prediction last though? Was that you, Vinny?
That was I,
Anything
yeah.
else?
Oh, yeah,
That's
that
it.
ain't
That's
right.
it. Yeah, some crazy shit's gonna happen. Either like Civil War, World War III type shit. Like, I just know it's definitely right now like seeing how everything's going. Like, there's gonna be a big change, and people are getting impatient for sure.
I think as much as we're galvanized on the left side here, the right side's getting just as galvanized, and at some point it's going to come to a head. And as Pac said, at some point the ground's going to open and eat the rich.
Mhm.
And we're not just talking. I mean, we are talking economical, but we're also talking about like political, social,
Yeah.
privilege-wise. You know what I mean? It's going to happen, and hopefully it's not as bloody as other revolutions we've seen in the past, but you can't write it off. I do feel like we're coming to a head, though.
Yeah. My boss said this thing that was interesting to me because we were talking about what's happening, and she was just saying, like, even though things are shitty right now, like, at the same time, she's looking at this conflict as like a necessary thing and a good thing,
Yeah.
because without conflict, we're not gonna be able to solve things. We're just gonna let them like be in the background, you know.
Fact.
I am worried about what's gonna happen because I think that, I mean, I feel like all three of us here are talking about almost like a civil war, and that shit's scary.
There's 4 of us.
Excuse me,
Who's
what?
excluded?
Vinny's a robot.
Oh, that's right.
He's only here to be
I'm,
computer.
I'm the robot.
Wait, what,
Beep
what
bop,
you-
beep bop.
You said all 3 of us.
Oh, did I? I meant all 4 of us.
Beepity boop
Yeah.
bop.
Sorry. I thought I said before.
I know you can't see me because of the white background, and I'm white. I know I just, but
What,
I'm here too, Kyle.
those glasses are talking to us, man.
Yes. Whoa, John Cena, dude.
No, it is scary though. I think like what's interesting to me because I feel like okay, there's so many people protesting all over the world, right? And like I think all of us are united in some ways. Anyone who's out in the streets right now fighting for Black Lives Matter, for civil rights, I think all of us kind of are we're the unified ones in a way, right? And same thing with the right side. But I feel like we're fighting two sides where okay, there's the right who are trying to protect their sense of life, which is still the systemic racism shit,
Mhm.
and then there's people with power, the government, the rich, other people were fighting, and then I guess there's also countries fighting each other. So it's just like all these like domino effect of shit, right? But I don't know. But at the same time, if we know how to use our numbers, because if you think about it, I feel like people on our side is the majority. If you think about it, you know, I don't know if you
Oh man,
agree.
there's a lot of people in this country.
Yeah, man.
Just because we've seen a lot of people come out for one side doesn't mean we didn't see a lot of people. And that also doesn't mean that there could be people from the right out there that completely agree with everything, that with all the protests and everything. They may not
Oh
agree
yeah.
with riots, but they may be a part of the protests and be like they've changed their mind. They're still Republican, but they are like, you know what, I understand Black lives do matter.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's
I
like,
guess it.
so it's like there could be people that are switching ideas, but not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily switching sides. So I just don't think that we can say that, especially with how close the houses are, the Senate is, the Congress. That's literally supposed to be a representation of the views of the people at that time. Like
Yeah.
so if there's like, even if it's like 50-50 or one's just one seat more than the other, that seems pretty still 50-50 divided down the middle to me more than majority on one end.
But I also think that the people who would be our enemies doesn't necessarily mean they're like Republican, right? I think they're
No,
more like the fundamentalists, you know? Usually those are the extremes that like we have to fight. Because I'm sure, like, even though people see these protests as aggressive, a lot of times I feel like they see it as aggressive is because it's like because of the skin color,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, maybe we don't outnumber them, but like Absol saying, if all the gangs in the world unified, we stand a chance
Mm.
against the military tonight. So, even if we don't outnumber them, if we all come together, we stand a chance. And that's all we can fucking ask for, right?
hmm
Yeah, I just feel like with the way things are going, I feel like things are definitely gonna boil up. But we're also at a weird point of history where it's not even just like interpersonal problems we're dealing with. There's COVID, outside shit like that, and now the fucking Pentagon is like releasing shit about UFO. So I feel like
Look over here. Look over here. Everybody look
Hey,
over
do you
here.
guys remember murder hornets were a thing?
Yeah, look over
yeah,
here too. No, fuck, fuck, fuck.
yeah, right.
They're not losing focus.
I just feel like at the same time, all the wealthy people in like 10 years, they're probably all gonna leave us and go to Mars.
I can't
Yeah, I
leave.
might go too. I'm just
We can't leave, bro. We've done too many things.
yeah, no.
We've done too many things. They won't let us leave.
That's the rapture. Is Elon Musk is like, you can't get in my fucking plane. You fucking.
You've done stuff.
Oh man.
Well, to wrap up, I just want to say, like, again, the stances we're taking here is we're not trying to be at the forefront. We're not talking to black people when it comes to this. If black people are listening, I appreciate y'all lending an ear. Please let us know if we said something that is misleading or incorrect, because we're here to support y'all's movement.
We're always here to learn.
We're definitely aiming towards people that look like us, and hopefully we can get them to support the black movement.
Yeah.
Because we owe black people so much. Wave Gang, just in general, bruh, we have borrowed so much from black culture, and we have found ourselves having this, even if it's a very small platform that we have right now. It's something more substantial than we've ever had, and it's because of us borrowing from black culture, whether it's music, fashion, the way I talk. You know what I mean? Even though I was raised in the same communities, I borrowed this from y'all, and we appreciate you guys letting us into your culture, giving us a voice and an avenue to express ourselves. So we owe the black people, the black community, more than we could ever give back. So that's why we felt like we had to do this episode here. So I just wanted to say that. Check the links, donate. Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
There's also a bunch of other foundations to donate to as well. I just haven't personally donated to them, so I don't know the best ones that are most credible in these situations. But those are two that I know, that I very comfortably feel that my money's going towards the right causes with these places. But yeah.
Yeah, just make sure you do your research. If you're not going to donate to us, make sure you do your research before you donate to just anybody.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people out there that have intent to really just use their money,
Oh,
Yeah.
their ideas, and their purposes, which frankly don't necessarily have to do anything to do with Black Lives Matter.
I worked in the philanthropic industry for 4.5 years when I worked at Flux, and I will tell you, there's 1,000% foundations out there that are completely mishandling your money intentionally. So, and that was a big reason why I ended up leaving that company, not because they're doing it, because I just couldn't continue partnering with foundations that do this. So, like Xani said, do your fucking research and make sure that you do understand where your money is going.
Hmm.
Kongfetti, any last words?
Get educated. Fucking get educated. Me honestly being behind closed doors, I try to like hide away from a lot of like politics and the media, and this is like the 846 was fucking an eye opener. Just get yourself educated. Like no matter who you are, learn about this shit. Be open minded, and definitely just get out there. Fucking just do
If
something.
you
Learn.
really, if you really want to get educated, I suggest definitely Googling the Howard Zinn Project. If you don't already know who that is, he's a very famous writer. He writes a lot of books about radical people in the United States and their radical thoughts and how it's shaped and changed the U.S. for the better and for the worst. I definitely recommend looking up everything that man has to give you. I'm not even sure if he's still alive, but the whole project is based off of his ideas and um, kind of just shaping the world for the better. And so, anyways,
Yeah, to as my final statement, I was just gonna say, I do agree with Medium Frank. We're not trying to be leaders in here at all. We're just trying to provide an open space. So I hope you guys talk to us, debate us, and be respectable. Be respectful. I mean, any racist or problematic comments will be deleted. Like
No room for that shit.
yeah, no room for that shit. Be respectful. Like we want to help, and like I said, it's by providing a space like this where we can talk, where other people can talk. Anyone's welcome. You just have to make sure that you leave your ignorance at the door, and be willing to learn as much as we are. That's why we're open to any criticisms from you guys. We're not trying to be combative or anything. We're trying to just be better than who we were yesterday, because we know that we haven't been perfect in any of the causes or fights that we or stands that we would take right now. A lot of them is because we've learned from our past and the shit that the stupid things that we've done. So from now on, it seems like at least society is saying we're gonna correct all the problems right now. Let's face it. We'll go this way, the right way, and we're just gonna be for that. We're gonna follow. I think the great um, mark of a person is someone who could lead themselves, and you don't necessarily have to be the leader of everything. I think you just have to learn how to empower other people, and that's what we want to do for all you guys. But yeah, it's been a great discussion today. Honestly, I'm sure not everyone, not like we, there are things we don't know how to express right now, and we haven't been able to like just bear it all out. You know, there's still an ongoing conversation. Just make sure it doesn't stop right here.
Perfect. That's perfect. We get that shit right there, man. That's perfect.
Sweet. All right. Oh wait, where can they find you guys?
Oh man. Kofi Mania, we need that in America. Kofi Mania, we need that to be the symbol of this revolution, man. He overcame so much bullshit in the WWE. If you think about his rise to the championship a couple years ago, how many years did it take for him to even get a title shot? That's systemic racism within WWE because he's black and he was too small. So that's why I didn't give him a shot. And guess what? He fucking had his shot. He made the most out of it, and the fucking lasting image of him triumphing. And I love Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan is an ally, right? But the image of Kofi Kingston triumphing over a white man in WrestleMania, and then holding the greatest prize in wrestling and being held up by his black brothers is the most beautiful shit I've ever seen in my fucking life when it comes to wrestling. And this needs to happen in real life. Kofi Mania in America, 2020. Let's
Nice.
Mania America.
You can find me on social media, man. The links will be in the description. I don't want to plug myself too much.
Yeah. I was gonna say, that's the last thing that I thought of. You know how we don't want to hear from celebrities. We don't want to hear from Jaw. There is one celebrity I am holding accountable though that we should hear from. You know who it is?
Who?
It's Billy Ray Cyrus. Where are you?
Wait, what?
What the fuck?
Only
Where's
he can
Billy
stop
Ray?
this. Where's Billy Ray right now?
Only
Huh?
Billy Ray can lead us to the light.
Yeah, he was
Somebody
able
get-
to bring
Billy is the Ray.
Lil Nas to the country. Maybe he could do this for
He
racism.
brought us greats like Lil Nas and Hannah Montana. We need this man to lead us.
Where's
to
Billy
you.
Ray? Somebody get this motherfucker on the phone so we can make sense of this shit.
Hey, bro, go smoke another one. I ain't never heard so smoke shit come out your mouth.
Damn it, we were gonna end on such a positive note. Now it's
I know, right?
well, shit, man. Again, like our links are in the description. That's where you can find us, man.
Hit the like and subscribe button, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank
And
you
share
guys.
share this to other people that look like you that might not be willing to listen to this conversation otherwise. That's all it is.
Mhm.
Or share it with people that don't look like you. I don't really care. Just share it. That'd be nice.
Yup.
Share it to the opposition.
Yeah,
Yup. And get educated. Because I'm still learning.
definitely. Learn something new every day.
All right, guys.
Well, shit, y'all. You know what they say on the On Repeat podcast? Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter. All right. So.